Chapter 496. The energy contained in a complete yellow-blooded sea cucumber was enough to make 4 to 5 peak-level dangling fishers explode. In fact, none of these 400 people were weak. The weakest of them was an advanced dangling fisher. Otherwise, they wouldn't have survived in this place. Among them, the number of peak-level dangling fishers had exceeded 100, and there were nearly 200 of them. Only 10 yellow-blooded sea cucumbers were certainly not enough. These people were divided very quickly, but their strength was at most restored to the state of junior dangling fishers. However, Han Fei didn't plan to give them more food, because once these people recovered, they would all be extremely strong. Once an accident happened, it would be impossible to control them. Lu Fanfang leaned to Han Fei. Is it really okay to just give it to them? Wang Baiwan also said via voice transmission, these people are not weak, but we have very few people. Xiao Sei looked at Han Fei gratefully, immediately joined the crowd, and began to distribute and maintain order. Zhang Xuanyu grinned. Fei, how many yellow-blooded sea cucumbers do you have? Han Fei chuckled. 8,000 or 800. As soon as Han Fei said this, the entire top of the boat fell silent. Even those who were fighting for the sea cucumbers were dumbfounded. Xiao Sei staggered. Fuck you. Do you think you have too many sea-swallowing seashells? 1,000 or 800 yellow-blooded sea cucumbers. Are you here to gain experience or to eat? Zhang Xuanyu chuckled. Okay, I knew you wouldn't let me down. Han Fei took out dozens of sea-swallowing seashells and gave them to Zhang Xuanyu. Here you go. Han Fei said via voice transmission, 300 yellow-blooded sea cucumbers, more than 300 energy-enhancing spiritual fruits, 20 million mid-quality pearls, a fishing boat that can travel 65,000 kilometers in a day, a demon-level divine quality disguise technique, the almost perfect majestic mystic spell, nearly 100 high-quality spiritual weapons and battle suits. Okay, I've plundered half of the level 3 fishery and given them all to you. I really envy you for having a brother like me. The fishing boat is borrowed. You have to return it to me. Yes, Han Fei gave the second fishing boat to Zhang Xuanyu only a few days after it was refined. There was no other reason than that he couldn't let Zhang Xuanyu go into the abyssal chasm with him. Besides, Zhang Xuanyu had been trapped for a long time and hadn't been to any other places except the flowstone pit in the level 3 fishery. Right now, he was probably the weakest among them. He felt that he had to let Zhang Xuanyu go out to look for opportunities. In order to prevent himself from being hunted down, without the Thousand Faces art and the Wind God boat, he probably wouldn't be able to escape. Therefore, he didn't feel any heartache when he gave them away. In any case, he had no use for it now. Moreover, he believed that after he found the treasures left by Ren Tianfei, his strength would definitely improve significantly. By then, no matter who he met in the level 3 fishery, even if it was a hanging fisher, he wouldn't be afraid. The expression on Zhang Xuanyu's face froze, and he thought to himself, what the fuck, what the fuck? He felt as if tens of thousands of ironhead fish were rushing past him. Gulp, fuck. Zhang Xuanyu shuddered and quickly put away the sea-swallowing seashells. Then he asked in shock, where did you get them? This, Zhang Xuanyu's hands trembled and he felt that his brain had crashed. How many fucking opportunities did Han Fei get? There were nearly 100 superior-grade spiritual weapons and battle armors? More than 300 spiritual fruits? 10 million mid-quality pearls? A fishing boat that was even faster than the Ghost Speed Divine boat? And a divine quality disguise technique and an amazing secret technique. Zhang Xuanyu felt that he was in a bad mood and his face turned red. He felt that he had lost so much face that it was as if he had lost it all the way to his grandmother's house. We are both from the Thug Academy, but why is Han Fei so excellent, while I'm so lame? However, Zhang Xuanyu immediately realized what Han Fei meant. He said seriously, asshole, why do I feel that you're not giving me things, but asking me to go out? Han Fei looked at Zhang Xuanyu with a faint smile. Of course I'm asking you to go out. Lu Renquang and Luo Xiaobai are still missing. Although Xia Xiaochan is outside, there are many people hunting her. It's up to you. Zhang Xuanyu was stunned and it took him a while to realize what he meant. Hey no. Asshole, are you going to go in alone? Han Fei said with a smile, "What else can I do? Otherwise, with your mediocre combat power, how can I let you go with me? Do you want to die?" Zhang Xuanyu shrugged. "Actually, I still have trump cards." Han Fei rolled his eyes. "No matter how powerful they are, you haven't become an advanced dangling fisher yet. They won't help you." Zhang Xuanyu was speechless and suddenly said, "No. It's dangerous for me, but it's not dangerous for you. We can take care of each other. If you go alone, no one can help you if something happens." Han Fei chuckled. "Okay, don't talk nonsense. I'm asking you to go out, so go out. If you have a chance, find a ghost ship as big as the dragon boat, called the Evil Shield." Zhang Xuanyu's expression changed. Seeing that Han Fei was so sure, he didn't insist anymore. No one knew what he was thinking. Han Fei suddenly changed the topic. "Xiao Sei, apart from these people, how many people on the first floor can still be saved?" Xiao Sei shrugged and smiled bitterly. "I don't know. Many of those people are in a half-crazy state and have lost their minds. We can only catch them one by one. However, I estimate that the number is no less than 1,000. Han Fei looked at Zhang Xuanyu with a smile. "How about we be good guys for once?" Zhang Xuanyu wondered, "When are we not good guys?" Han Fei chuckled and thought to himself, "If you go out and see the current wanted list, you probably won't think so. Xia Xiaochan and I have become two big devils." Han Fei waved his fishing rod, and a yellow-blooded sea cucumber was already hanging on it. "It's too troublesome to catch them one by one. However, it's too easy for them to find us by themselves." Everyone immediately understood Han Fei's intentions. Sun Ruo's eyes were full of hope. Lu Fenfang let out a long breath. Wang Baiwan told Han Fei that it would consume a lot of food. Seeing the scene, Xiao Sei couldn't help but frown. He didn't know who Han Fei was, but why was this guy so unusual? He didn't want to save those who had already gone crazy. Whether he could save them or not was one thing. Even if he did save them, could so many people really walk out of here? Would they really know how to repay the kindness shown to them? Zhang Xuanyu pretended to look at those people who were swallowing the yellow-blooded sea cucumber crazily, but his eyes were always paying attention to Xiao Sei. His every move fell into his eyes. Zhang Xuanyu said to Han Fei via voice transmission, "Something is wrong with Xiao Sei." Han Fei was waving his fishing rod, and he crushed an energy spiritual fruit on the yellow-blooded sea cucumber. He believed that as long as they had lived here for a long time, their sensitivity to energy would definitely not be low. Therefore, as long as he took back the fishing hook, he believed that those people would definitely all rush over. Hearing Zhang Xuanyu's voice transmission, Han Fei responded, "I know. It's not easy to be the leader of such a group of people. There must be something special about this person. However, I haven't found out that he has any malicious intent yet. So, this time you may have to take these people out with him." Zhang Xuanyu frowned. "Can we really take them out? When we came in, we found that there were too many weird things in this sea area. They will be hit by some invisible force, and they will also be sucked into the vortex and disappear." Han Fei said, "Follow the ghost ferryman. It's a bit slow, but as long as we make it through that part of the way, it won't be a problem to get out. After all, this time you are not going out one or two, but hundreds or thousands of people, and this is not the real abyssal chasm. If you can't even get out of here, you might as well commit suicide." Zhang Xuanyu grinned. "Let me try. The Dead Sea where fishing boats can't sail and this energy-absorbing ocean have already doomed countless people. Even if there are more dangerous existences, they shouldn't be here." These people on the top of the boat, after obtaining energy, many of them sat cross-legged and were recovering. After about a quarter of an hour, the entire top of the boat was shaking. Xiao Sei shouted, "Everyone back off, back off." Sun Ruo and the others all stood behind Han Fei. Those who had food now were the big shots. Han Fei didn't hesitate. With a wave of his hand, he threw out more than 20 yellow-blooded sea cucumbers. "This roar, bam." Zhang Xuanyu frowned. There seemed to be a fight between them. Han Fei nodded, took out a few more yellow-blooded sea cucumbers, cut them into hundreds of pieces, and threw them into the mist. At this point, the sound of fighting in the mist was much better. Immediately afterward, there was the sound of chewing, a lot of chewing. It was not until half an hour later that the mist quieted down. Then, a skinny person appeared from the mist. The first person who appeared covered his head with one hand while looking at Han Fei and the others vigilantly. Han Fei said, "If you've recovered your consciousness, say something." Energy, phew. Zhang Xuanyu and the others were relieved when they heard this person say these two words. After throwing out nearly 50 yellow-blooded sea cucumbers, these people finally recovered a little. Han Fei said to them via voice transmission, "It's up to you now." Hearing this, Zhang Xuanyu smiled and immediately took a few steps forward. "Everyone, if you can still understand human language, make a sound. Today, in an hour, we will set off and leave this damn place." When Zhang Xuanyu spoke, Xiao Sei in the thick mist slightly narrowed his eyes. Chapter 497. In fact, Han Fei didn't save all the people. Some people were completely crazy and lost. Even if they ate the yellow-blooded sea cucumbers, they would still go crazy. Zhang Xuanyu didn't need to use any tricks to recruit these people easily. Here, whoever had energy was the boss. Han Fei gave Zhang Xuanyu a lot of energy, which was 300 yellow-blooded sea cucumbers. Even if all the people here were peak-level dangling fishers, they could survive for a day. Besides, neither Han Fei nor Zhang Xuanyu would keep them full of energy all the time. Yes, Zhang Xuanyu was distributing the meat one by one and talking to everyone. If they wanted to live, they shouldn't eat it now. This was their only chance to leave alive. It was also at this moment that Han Fei discovered that he couldn't save everyone. There were nearly 300 people here. Even though they ate and digested the meat of the yellow-blooded sea cucumbers, they still went crazy. Because of this, they charged into the crowd again, causing the deaths of dozens of people. In the end, it was Han Fei who drove all of them away. In the end, according to the statistics, there were not as many people who could still retain their intelligence. There were exactly 1,001 people, one more than 1,000. However, this number was actually not small. Han Fei couldn't imagine how he could survive in this damn place until now without energy if he were them. There must be a lot of sad and cruel stories, but no one would mention them. And the group of people led by Xiao Sei naturally lined up and came to Zhang Xuanyu to get food. At this moment, the person who had been secretly watching Xiao Sei became Han Fei. Some of the people lining up to get food had tears in their eyes, some wept with joy, and some thanked him repeatedly. "Brother, I can't thank you enough. My life is yours from now on. Benefactor, if we can survive this, I, Yang Ling, will do anything for you in the future. Brother Zhang, Brother Han, thank you very much." Han Fei smiled and didn't say anything. Zhang Xuanyu occasionally talked to these people. Xiao Sei came to Han Fei. "Brother Han, it's all thanks to you this time. If it weren't for you, I really wouldn't have known. Plus, I'm really desperate." Han Fei said with a smile, "Not at all. I'm just trying to earn some merit for myself." Xiao Sei said, "Brother Han is a righteous man. I know that you came here to save Brother Zhang. However, so many people are indebted to you for saving them. Brother Han has given them a second chance at life." Han Fei chuckled and said, "You flatter me, Brother Xiao." Xiao Sei's face was a little perturbed as he said, "I have a presumptuous request. I wonder if Brother Han can lead us out of this sea?" Han Fei frowned. A good show is coming. Han Fei thought to himself, "This is what you really want to know, right?" Han Fei frowned. "I'm afraid I can't go out with you." Upon hearing this, many people were moved. "Brother Han, why don't you come with us? The abyssal chasm is too dangerous. I can't risk it." "Brother Han, we've already consumed so much of your food. If you want to continue exploring, you should at least prepare enough food." "Brother Han." Xiao Sei also said, "Brother Han, you're the strongest person here right now. If you don't go with us, I'm afraid." Han Fei smiled and said, "Zhang Xuanyu, Wang Baiwan, and the others, their strength has not been reduced at all. They are still at their peak. Besides, I can see that Brother Xiao is still an advanced dangling fisher, which is the same as me. How can you say that I'm the strongest?" Xiao Sei sighed. "Alas, Brother Han, this is a dangerous trip. If you're not strong enough, you should turn back immediately. Han Fei said with a smile, "Thank you for your kindness, Brother Xiao." Zhang Xuanyu was sending stuff with his back to the two of them. Hearing this, he rolled his eyes. Hypocrite, too fucking hypocritical. As soon as Xiao Sei finished asking, Han Fei took the opportunity to say to Zhang Xuanyu, "You, take them out. I'll leave such a difficult task to you." Zhang Xuanyu was stunned. "Are you leaving now?" Han Fei said, "I'll explain it to you when we're done." Zhang Xuanyu pondered for a moment. "Okay, I'll wait for you outside." Han Fei left quickly and jumped off the top of the dragon boat. Then he didn't move again. Sun Ruoro said, "Zhang Xuanyu, why did Han Fei leave? It's really dangerous. We haven't even reached the real inner periphery of the abyssal chasm, but we're already in such a dangerous situation. How difficult will it be later?" Lu Fenfang also said, "Yes. Are you sure Brother Han will go alone?" Wang Baiwan pondered for a moment. "Why don't we go together? Then we can take care of each other." Zhang Xuanyu smiled and said, "It's okay. The three of you together can only drag him down." Then Zhang Xuanyu roared, "Everyone, leave the boat with me. Life and death are fated. We only have this chance. Let's go." Leaders and leaders were very strange creatures. No matter big or small, as long as someone took the lead, there would be people following him. Especially at this time, what was in front of everyone was a chance to live. No one knew where the ghost ferryman came from. At this moment, Zhang Xuanyu was following a ghost ferryman with thousands of people. He was carrying a fishing boat and slowly moving to the periphery. The reason why he was sure that it was the periphery was that there were two ghost ferrymen who went out at the same time. Besides, they also encountered a ghost ferryman who was sailing to a dragon boat. Xiao Sei was swimming next to Zhang Xuanyu at this moment. "Brother Zhang, this thing is too slow. Now that the direction has been determined, why don't we just swim over? It's faster that way." Zhang Xuanyu grinned at Xiao Sei. "It's different. We've all sailed fishing boats before. As long as the fishing boat slightly deviates from the direction, the final direction may be completely different in this vast sea. So, we'd rather be slow and hold on for 3 days." Sun Ruoruo nodded. "When we came here, we all followed the ferryman. When we go back, we have to follow him. Otherwise, if we get lost, we will all die here." Xiao Sei smiled and didn't speak. Half a day later, the ghost ferryman began to speed up gradually. But at this moment, someone suddenly said, "Brother Zhang, someone is missing." This voice gave Zhang Xuanyu a bad feeling. He subconsciously looked at Xiao Sei who was beside him. The latter did not do anything special, so why did someone disappear? Zhang Xuanyu said, "Come here." When the man swam to the front, Zhang Xuanyu asked, "How did you find him?" The man said nervously, "I was behind him and chatted with him several times. However, when I turned my head just now, he was gone. I looked around but didn't find him." Xiao Sei frowned. "Everyone, check if anyone around you is missing." After a moment, "One person is missing on my side. The person who was with me just now is gone." "Not good, the person behind me is gone." For a moment, the crowd was in an uproar. Zhang Xuanyu said to everyone via voice transmission, "Don't panic. Everyone moves forward in a line and look around. If someone is missing, send a voice transmission immediately. Don't slow down and follow the ferryman." Because there weren't many people missing, there were only about 10 people missing. Besides, everyone thought Zhang Xuanyu's idea was good. So, they weren't particularly worried. After another half a day, the speed of the ferryman was not slow anymore. After a day of swimming, many people had eaten half of the yellow-blooded sea cucumbers they carried. Zhang Xuanyu said telepathically, "Lu Fenfang, distribute food." While Zhang Xuanyu was talking to Lu Fenfang, someone suddenly exclaimed, "Not good. The line behind us is gone." The crowd was in chaos. It was fine if 1 or 2 people were missing. But a whole team of people was missing. Zhang Xuanyu looked back, only to see dozens of lines, and there were at least 40 or 50 people in each line. 4 or 5 people mysteriously disappeared all of a sudden. Who wouldn't panic? The crowd swam forward crazily, and the line was in chaos. For a moment, the scene was a mess. Zhang Xuanyu roared, "Don't panic. Everyone, continue to line up. 10 people will wander around the line. If you find anything unusual, report immediately." At this moment, someone suddenly shouted, "I'll bring up the rear. Everyone in front, line up. I'll bring up the rear for you." Xiao Sei said, "I'll go too. Don't panic. I'll bring up the rear for you too." Zhang Xuanyu nodded. "Brother, I'll remember you. What's your name? If something happens to you, everyone will be able to help your family in the future." The man said telepathically, "My name is Fan Datong, and I live in the Blue Sea town. I'm quite famous, and there are only a few old bastards and little bastards left in my family." Zhang Xuanyu was infuriated. "Since when did I become a bastard?" Chapter 498. Han Fei was very depressed. Originally, this was what he and Zhang Xuanyu had planned. They guessed that something must have happened on this trip, so Han Fei hid in the crowd. However, in this weird sea area, his spiritual perception couldn't be spread at all. The first time someone disappeared, it was actually Han Fei who shouted. However, at that time, he didn't find the reason. It seemed that someone disappeared inexplicably. During this half a day, he had been paying attention to it. But this time, a whole team disappeared, which he was the first to discover. A moment ago, he looked back and found that the team was still there. However, when he looked back again, he found that there was no one behind him. Not to mention those people in front of him, even he himself was horrified. These people disappeared without a sign, as if they had never existed. At this moment, Zhang Xuanyu had just appeased this group of people. Then, Han Fei saw Xiao Sei come to his side. Xiao Sei glanced at Han Fei and couldn't help but say, "Brother Fan, you look a little unfamiliar." Han Fei nodded. "Hey, I've been muddle-headed before, so it's normal that Brother Xiao hasn't seen me before. I don't even know what I've done." Xiao Sei nodded slightly. "This trip is weird. Be careful." Han Fei nodded and continued to swim with him. After this incident, everyone was much more vigilant, and from time to time, someone would look around. This made Han Fei feel very good. Everyone was observing, so it shouldn't be easy to have a problem. Suddenly, Han Fei felt that the water around him was moving abnormally. Right in front of him, the flow of the water seemed to be blocked by something. Swish! Han Fei moved away in an instant. When he looked back, he only saw a flash of blue light disappearing from his vision. "Brother Fan, what's wrong with you?" Seeing Han Fei's movement, Xiao Sei hurriedly caught up and asked. Han Fei glanced at Xiao Sei vigilantly and shook his head slightly. "Oh, it's nothing. I just had a bad feeling just now, so I changed my swimming posture." Xiao Sei's eyes narrowed slightly, and then he said with a smile, "Don't worry, I'm still next to you. There won't be any abnormal movements." Han Fei thought, "It's because you are next to me that I feel bad." At this moment, he was thinking, what the hell is that blue light? He was sure that the disappearance of the people was definitely related to that blue light. Suddenly, Han Fei's body stiffened slightly. He remembered that when he was at the bottom of the hurricane area, he had also seen some blue flakes. At first, he thought it was a ball, but when he got closer, he realized that it was just a piece that didn't seem to have any thickness at all. At that time, he had even thrown stones into it. But even if the stone went in, it wouldn't come out from behind the blue light. At that time, he thought it was some kind of portal. However, thinking about it, how could there be so many teleportation portals? Thus, he didn't approach, nor did he dare to enter. Now that he thought about it, the smear of blue that he had just seen was so similar to the blue light sheet that he had seen back then. After about an hour, when the crowd settled down a little, with Han Fei and Xiao Sei behind them, many people were relieved. Moreover, there were people wandering around the periphery. Everyone felt that the surveillance was in place. The things in the water didn't dare to be too brazen. However, because his speed was getting faster and faster, he became more and more careful. Suddenly, Han Fei felt that the water flow was blocked. At that moment, Han Fei's eyes almost popped out. He punched forward, followed by a flash of golden light. Attach! At this time, Han Fei didn't care about exposing himself. He felt that the water flow within dozens of meters in front of him was strange, as if there was a wall blocking him. But Han Fei knew that it was not a wall at all, but many blue light sheets. While flapping his wings, Han Fei hooked his fishing rod directly at Xiao Sei, and at the same time, he said to the crowd via voice transmission, "Something is wrong with Xiao Sei. Kill him." Xiao Sei's expression changed drastically. He was smiling and thinking to himself, "Let's see how you dodge this time." But he didn't know that Fan Datong turned out to be Han Fei in disguise, and his reaction speed was so fast. Zhang Xuanyu said to the crowd via voice transmission, "Everyone, keep moving forward. Han Fei, I'm coming to help you." The crowd was frightened and looked back, but when they saw that Han Fei and Xiao Sei had already started fighting, they couldn't help but be shocked. Xiao Sei had left the team, and the fishing hook that Han Fei hooked directly sank into the void. There was no telling where it went, but it must have sunk into the colorless light sheet. Han Fei shouted, "Don't come over. Pay attention to the water flow. Once you find the water flow, get out of the way immediately." For a time, people came from all directions to help, and dozens of them rushed over at once. Someone shouted, "Good. Xiao Sei, we trusted you so much, but we didn't expect you to be so vicious." Some spears shot out like dragons, some rolled up sharp blades, and some opened their armor boxes. Xiao Sei's face couldn't have looked more awful. He suddenly waved his hand, and threads seemed to be shot out. Then hundreds of blue light sheets suddenly appeared in the seawater. Puff! In the blink of an eye, the dozens of people who rushed over disappeared in front of everyone. Zhang Xuanyu shouted, "Keep swimming. Don't come over." Zhang Xuanyu heard Han Fei's warning, and at the moment when the blue light sheets appeared, the waves in front of him rolled back and pushed him back. Han Fei said coldly, "You keep going. Leave Xiao Sei to me." Xiao Sei sneered. "Who the hell are you? How did you find out?" What answered Xiao Sei was dozens of fist lights. Han Fei's momentum soared, and he had already activated the majestic mystic spell. His speed was extremely fast. The seawater exploded, and the golden fist light was as fast as a meteor. Wherever the fist light passed, it rolled up streams of water and directly covered Xiao Sei. However, a lot of blue light sheets appeared around Xiao Sei. Han Fei's fist light passed through the blue light sheets, and no one knew where it landed. Damn it! Han Fei was speechless. This was the first time he had seen such a weird character. What kind of method was this? He absolutely didn't believe that a dangling fisher could use the power of teleportation. Even Xia Xiaochan didn't have this ability. Xiao Sei ran wildly. Han Fei, Xiao Sei, will remember what happened today. However, on Xiao Sei's way of escape, a figure suddenly appeared. In the blink of an eye, 9 overlapping waves surged. In another blink of an eye, Xiao Sei was blasted hundreds of meters away by this blow. Han Fei was stunned. Damn, a clone? Zhang Xuanyu was still blocked on the other side, but another Zhang Xuanyu appeared in front of Xiao Sei. Han Fei couldn't help but be surprised. When did this guy have such a method? But on Xiao Sei's way, another Zhang Xuanyu appeared. The rod turned into thousands of shadows, and one of them directly pierced Xiao Sei. Crack! Xiao Sei's body suddenly flashed and disappeared without a trace, leaving only a fragment of a flash stone in the seawater. Zhang Xuanyu cursed, "Fuck, do you really think I'm not a master? Don't run if you have the guts. I'll beat you up." Han Fei was stunned. "Fuck, all 3 of them are you? How is it possible?" Zhang Xuanyu said, "Let's go. Catch up with the team." The two sides fought for less than 10 seconds, and the majority of the team was left with only vague figures. They were really scared by the sudden disappearance of dozens of people just now. The people who wanted to rush up all shrank back, and some even dispersed. Zhang Xuanyu cursed, "They all ran away. None of them were left. Damn it, I really don't want to save them." Han Fei patted Zhang Xuanyu on the shoulder. "Save them? These people seem useless, but I don't know what will happen in the future. Xia Xiaochan and I have offended a lot of people outside. It may be useful to make friends with these people." The two of them quickly chased after them. On the way, Han Fei glanced at Zhang Xuanyu strangely. The other 2 Zhang Xuanyu were gone. He couldn't help but ask, "Was that a clone? How can a clone be so powerful? Zhang Xuanyu grinned. Don't think you're the only one who got a chance. Do you think I stayed in the flowstone pit for nothing? What do you think? These three are all mine. It's called Trinity Body. Unfortunately, it has a special requirement for soul power. Otherwise, I would have given it to you. While talking, the two of them saw Sun Ruoruo halfway. Seeing that the two of them were fine, Sun Ruoruo hurriedly came up. Did Xiaosei run away? Zhang Xuanyu said, Don't worry. This person escaped with serious injuries. I don't think he will make trouble again. Just when Zhang Xuanyu was about to catch up with the team, Han Fei stopped. Zhang Xuanyu was taken aback. Wait, do you really want to go in? Han Fei said, There is a chance for me in there. Go out by yourself. Remember, don't spread the news about the abyssal chasm. Otherwise, everyone will be hunted by the dragon boats. Also, there should be danger ahead, but as long as Xiaosei is not there, I believe you should be able to pass. Zhang Xuanyu gritted his teeth. Be careful. You haven't come out for a month. I'm coming to save you. Han Fei turned around and left, no longer staying. In fact, his original purpose was just to save Zhang Xuanyu. However, saving a person was saving, and saving a group of people was also saving. This was a team of thousands of people. They seemed useless, but these people all owed him and Zhang Xuanyu their lives. If he could save so many people by spending hundreds of yellow-blooded sea cucumbers, he would be willing to do so. Even if they didn't need these people in the future, it didn't matter. At this moment, Han Fei's face slightly darkened. In fact, he had to go back to the dragon boat. Xiaosei was not an idiot. Since he wanted to keep these people here, he naturally had his reasons. And Han Fei felt that it was definitely not a trivial matter to keep so many people here to do one thing. And there should be some secrets on the dragon boat. As for the group of people who were now fleeing, after Xiaosei was injured, they should not have the strength to stay. Chapter 499. After leaving the team, Han Fei's first destination was naturally the dragon boat. After a long time, he met a ghost ferryman, so he jumped onto the boat and asked the ghost ferryman to take him to find the dragon boat. About 16 hours later, Han Fei returned to the dragon boat. At this moment, there was almost no one on the first floor of the dragon boat, except for some people who were completely lost. However, with their combat power, it was not a problem for Han Fei at all. Han Fei found it from the top floor, floor by floor. He always felt that Xiaosei couldn't have done nothing here for such a long time. There must be some clues on the dragon boat. To Han Fei's surprise, the search process was surprisingly smooth. In a room on the fourth floor near the stern, Han Fei found that it was full of extremely old bones. Yes, he was very old. There were no less than 30 such bones. These people not only became skin and bones, but their hair was all gray. The skin on their bodies was covered with wrinkles, and their bones seemed to have been completely calcified. Han Fei couldn't imagine how old these people were. Just by looking at the skeleton, it was definitely an old man. However, how could there be so many old people on the dragon boat? The only explanation was that those normal people aged rapidly because of some unknown accident, so they became what they were now. A crisp sound attracted Han Fei's attention. The sound came from under his feet. Huh! Han Fei looked down and found that there seemed to be some scattered white shells under his feet. Are these eggshells? Han Fei was a little uncertain. Because there were too few white shells, he searched the room and only found 5 or 6, and they were not big. Just as Han Fei was staring at white shell in a daze, the ethereal voice rang in his ears again. Help me! Help me! Han Fei's body tightened. Where are you? Help me! Han Fei was a little frightened. Why does it sound like a child asking for help? Han Fei rummaged through the room. Other than the old bones and a few pieces of white shells, there was nothing else. When Han Fei was about to walk out, he subconsciously stepped out. Not good. When he took one step out of the room, he sensed danger. At this point, he realized that he had been careless. This was a fucking trap. The last thing he saw was that Xiaosei was holding his belly and looking at him palely. Damn you! In the next second, Han Fei disappeared from the room. Yes, The door had turned into a blue sheet of light. Because the blue side wasn't facing him, he couldn't see it at all. When Han Fei's eyes lit up again, he was dumbfounded. In his field of vision was an endless stretch of coral reefs. The seawater here was colorful and incomparably magnificent. The seawater here was incomparably clear, and there were coral bushes blooming like flowers everywhere. Red, white, yellow, and green were intertwined with each other. Seaweed floated along with the current, and clusters of sea anemones were scattered everywhere, stretching and retracting. The sea mussels covered every corner of the corals. They stretched out their tentacles and preyed on the plankton. Han Fei looked up. The seawater was so clear that it was almost transparent. Fish of all sizes that he was familiar with were swimming in groups here. There were the most common little white fish and the slow big yellow fish. Now and then, blade fish swam by, which messed up the whole school of fish. Now and then, a big meat turtle swam by unhurriedly. Next to the big meat turtle, there was always a little turtle that rubbed against the big meat turtle. An ordinary fishery? Han Fei looked around. Apart from those creatures, there were big green crabs that were crawling, crayfish that were looking around with their pincers raised, and tentacle lobsters that occasionally cut open a yellow fish and dragged it into their nest. Shoot! Han Fei swallowed. He couldn't imagine what he was seeing. Most of the creatures here were from the ordinary fishery. However, they were different from the creatures in the ordinary fishery. The ordinary fishery wouldn't be so harmonious. Because the creatures in the ordinary fishery didn't have much wisdom and only had the instinct to hunt, they wouldn't be so harmonious. But this place was so fucking harmonious and unbelievably beautiful. Han Fei suddenly released his aura. As a ripple spread out, the creatures within hundreds of meters suddenly shrank. The crabs and lobsters entered their nests, the sea anemones stopped moving, the sea clams all retracted into their shells, and the fish above their heads all swam away. Han Fei was thinking quickly. Could it be that the people who ate the blue fish did not die? Did they come to this place? No, no, no. Han Fei kept muttering to himself that something was wrong. Things couldn't be so simple. After eating the blue fish, there would only be illusions. Could illusions become real? He plucked a seaweed and crushed it in his hand. Then he picked up a sea clam and knocked it. It felt very real. Damn it, what is this place? Han Fei didn't believe that this place was real. This place was simply too beautiful, just like a fairyland. In the level 3 fishery, in the abyssal chasm, you're telling me that there is a fairyland? I don't believe you at all. Help me. Help me. The cry for help sounded again. Han Fei immediately looked around, only to see nothing. However, he was sure that the cry for help had become much clearer. Han Fei asked, "Who are you? Where are you? Help me." Fuck you, don't let me find you." Han Fei couldn't stand this kind of "yeah" sound anymore. He always felt that it would be a creature like the Millennium Snapper. Anyway, he would never believe that there would be people here. The problem was that Han Fei didn't know how Xiao Sei got him to this place. If he had casually sent himself to a strange place, how could he have been stabbed by Zhang Xuanyu with a stick? Besides, if Xiao Sei wanted to kill him, he couldn't have sent him to such a beautiful and non-threatening place. Gulp. Han Fei suddenly felt his stomach growl. Damn, I'm hungry already? My mouth hasn't even stopped moving. Han Fei immediately took out a chip and stuffed it into his mouth. Originally, a yellow-blooded sea cucumber chip was enough for him to eat for half a day. But now, this thing had completely become a chip. Han Fei ate more than 20 chips in a row before he felt a little satisfied. Damn, so it's been absorbing energy here? That's not right. It's not a matter of a year or two to absorb energy. How could he Xiao Sei send him here? Is Xiao Sei not a human being? Or is he transformed by something else? Han Fei immediately swam in this coral bush. There were too many things he didn't understand. Why am I hungry? But why are these ordinary sea creatures perfectly fine? Han Fei said to the surroundings via voice transmission, Xiao Sei, I know you bastard must be here. What, you want to use this method to kill me? Han Fei grabbed a big sea clam, gently crushed the shell with one hand, took out the clam meat, and shook it. It's fucking fat. Do you think you can kill me by absorbing energy? Then you should kill these sea creatures first. Otherwise, wouldn't I be able to keep eating? Qilu. Mom. Han Fei was yelling at Xiao Sei when he suddenly heard a cute, delicate little girl's voice. Han Fei quickly turned his head, only to see a palm-sized carp with golden and white stripes, dragon horns on its head, and big watery eyes staring at him. Fuck, Han Fei was stunned. He tilted his body and quickly distanced himself from this carp. In his eyes, information popped up. Named Time Dragon Carp, Introduction, Unknown, Level 1 Quality, Mysterious, Contains Spiritual Energy Greater than 1000 Points, Edible Effect? Collectible? Unabsorbable, speaking of which, Han Fei couldn't say a word at all as if there were a shrimp stuck in his throat. The mysterious creature contained 1000 points of spiritual energy. It was a species on the same level as Little White and Little Black. This time Dragon Carp timidly called out to Han Fei, "Mum?" Han Fei was dumbfounded. "Who's your daughter? I am your father." Chapter 500. Han Fei didn't want to recognize his daughter. However, this time Dragon Carp was on the same level as Little Black and Little White. Besides, maybe the chaos in this abyssal chasm was caused by this little thing. How awesome was this Dragon Carp? Since I want to recognize her, I'll call her Dad. The time Dragon Carp blinked its big eyes and said stupidly, "Dad? Do I have a dad?" Han Fei chuckled. "You were young and ignorant before, but now you have a dad." Suddenly, Han Fei's expression changed, and he took out the embroidery needle and pointed it at the void. "Get out." In the extremely clear water, a figure appeared. It was none other than Xiao Sei. Xiao Sei roared, "Han Fei, you are courting death." Just now, when Xiao Sei heard Han Fei ask the Time Dragon Carp to call him Dad, he almost peed his pants. "You don't even know the creature in front of you, but you dare to ask it to call you Dad?" Xiao Sei shouted nervously to the Time Dragon Carp, "Little Master, don't believe him. He's a liar." Han Fei's heart skipped a beat. "Little Master? Am I fucking hallucinating? You, a human, call a fish master?" The eyelids of the Time Dragon Carp's big, round eyes bent a little. Its expression was very vivid and it looked aggrieved. "You lied to me." When this Time Dragon Carp said that he lied to him, Han Fei felt that the energy in his body was rapidly draining. Han Fei didn't care and immediately said seriously, "Daughter, how can I lie to you? I am really your dad. Look at how handsome Dad is. Look at us, we are so alike." Xiao Sei's eyes almost popped out. "Are you fucking shameless? We are so alike? How could you even say that?" Xiao Sei shouted, "Little Master, he is the same as those people before. They are all food." Han Fei's heart froze. Could it be that all those people who jumped into the sea before and were brought in by Xiao Sei were eaten by this Time Dragon Carp? The Time Dragon Carp's big eyes flickered. "Is he really not Dad? But other food is not like this." Xiao Sei said, "Little Master, feel the energy in him. He..." Roar. Han Fei immediately roared, "Little Time, didn't your mama tell you? You can't eat people, you can't eat people. Tell me, did you eat people?" What? He immediately switched the embroidery needle in his hand to the swimming dragon bow and shot out 3 arrows. Each arrow exploded and flew towards Xiao Sei. While attacking, Han Fei shouted, "Thief, how dare you lie to my daughter? Who gave you the courage? Today I will destroy you." The Time Dragon Carp was startled by Han Fei's move and shyly stepped back. And Xiao Sei, an injured person, was no match for Han Fei. How could he block Han Fei's attack? Swish, swish, swish. Han Fei was shooting spiritual energy arrows all over the sky. Even if Xiao Sei had that miraculous evasion method, his body simply couldn't react in time. Bang, bang, bang. In a head-on battle, Xiao Sei couldn't even last 5 minutes. In the face of absolute strength, no matter how many fancy methods he had, they were useless. Xiao Sei was continuously attacked by Han Fei, and before he had fully recovered, he was shot by Han Fei's arrow again. At this moment, Xiao Sei vomited blood in big mouthfuls. However, he still shouted to the time dragon carp, "Little master, I won't lie to you. I am your guardian. I won't lie to you. Suck him, suck him." Han Fei frowned. This is just a level 1 time dragon carp. Although Little Black was also very powerful at level 1, he couldn't be so powerful, could he? He was already a dangling fisher now, and his full strength was comparable to that of a hanging fisher. How could he be killed by a level 1 little fish? Even if it was a divine beast, it was impossible. Han Fei didn't believe it. However, seeing that the time dragon carp seemed to be very young and didn't know anything, Han Fei immediately threw hundreds of crisps to the time dragon carp and said, "Daughter, the so-called guardian is fake. Who gave you delicious food is the real one. Look at me, I can't bear to eat such delicious food and save it for you." Han Fei saw that the time dragon carp, like an elf, turned into hundreds of clones in the water, and the next moment, all the crisps had entered its mouth. "Delicious! Delicious!" Xiao Sei roared at Han Fei. "Asshole, you are courting death. You don't know what you are doing." Han Fei went up and kicked Xiao Sei in the stomach. "I don't know what I am doing. I'm afraid you don't know what you are doing. Why are you pretending to be my daughter's guardian?" The time dragon carp gnawed the crisps and then appeared beside Han Fei with a swish. "Don't hit me. Brother Xiao Sei has a contract with me." Han Fei narrowed his eyes. "Fuck, there's a contract? What contract? Aren't fish always contractual spiritual beasts of human beings? Can a human be contracted by a fish?" However, Han Fei rolled his eyes. Anyway, the time dragon carp was still young and didn't know anything, so he could just boast about it. So Han Fei scolded, "Who asked you to sign a contract with him? Have you asked your mother? Did your mother agree? Did I agree?" The time dragon carp had never met a person like Han Fei. Being scolded by Han Fei, she hurriedly stepped back a few meters. Being scolded, her head tilted, her eyelids drooped, and she was about to cry. Han Fei said, "Although I came a little late and couldn't accompany you when you grew up, I was busy at that time. But at that time, Daddy had something to do. Look, isn't Daddy here?" With that said, Han Fei threw hundreds of crisps at her, thinking, "Let's fool this little thing first. As for Xiao Sei, I'll kill him later. I still have a lot of questions to ask him." However, just when Han Fei felt that he was going to win, Xiao Sei suddenly vomited a mouthful of blood. The blood formed a weird pattern in the seawater. Xiao Sei said ferociously, "Master, help, Han Fei." Han Fei immediately kicked Xiao Sei in the stomach. "Shut up. I am the master. Don't trick my daughter." Han Fei was about to kick again. However, in the next second, he felt a wave of water hitting him. It was just a wave, but it seemed to have hundreds of thousands of kilograms of force. Before Han Fei realized what was going on, he was slammed into the coral bushes by the wave, collapsing a large area of coral bushes. "Fuck, what's this?" Before Han Fei got up, he felt the soil under his feet shake, and there seemed to be an invisible force blasting under his feet. However, another wave hit him again. Bam! This time, Han Fei wanted to get up, only to find that the seawater seemed to weigh hundreds of thousands of kilograms, and he couldn't move at all. In the seawater, a huge water-shaped phantom emerged, with dragon horns on its head and its face emitting brilliant golden light. Although it was just a phantom, it was enough to make Han Fei shudder. The little time dragon carp rushed towards the huge phantom, wanting to rub itself against the body of the big fish. In the end, its small body passed through the water phantom. The big fish looked very helpless and comforted it. "Baby, be good. This person is a liar." The little time dragon carp was taken aback. "Isn't he Dad? He gave me a lot of delicious food." Bam! Han Fei felt that the heavy pressure on his body suddenly doubled. At that time, he was shocked. Why did he really have a mother? "You've been looking for Mom, looking for Mom. Why didn't you come to see your daughter? If I knew you were here, I wouldn't have bragged." Majestic mystic spell. The pressure on his body was so heavy that Han Fei had to use the majestic mystic spell. As soon as his strength increased by 5 times, Han Fei immediately withstood this huge pressure. However, although he withstood it, Han Fei's whole body was red, and he finally stood up. The big fish was a little surprised. This person seemed to be a little different. Han Fei felt that another wave was slapping at him. With a muffled roar in his throat, his fists trembled, and as he raised his hand, a dazzling fist light broke out of the water. Boom! Han Fei was blasted away, but the wave was also shattered by Han Fei's punch. Han Fei glared at the big fish. Stop playing tricks. Nine-tailed mantis shrimp, little gold, titch. Clang! Clang, clang, clang. When the 9-star chains danced in the air, and when Han Fei grew a pair of wings on his back, his strength rose further. Coupled with the majestic mystic spell, Han Fei was almost in his strongest state. Xiao Sei was stunned. Is this person so strong? Han Fei roared, you feed on human beings. Why don't you teach me a lesson? Take my punch. With this punch, Han Fei punched with indomitable spirit and madness. The huge fist mark was printed in the sea, bursting with brilliant golden light. Han Fei could perceive that this phantom seemed to be just a thought. He could only fight. Otherwise, would he really wait for death? To fight such a powerful existence, he must have the courage to fight. Therefore, no matter whether he could beat him or not, he had to throw this punch. He couldn't lose his momentum. Chapter 501. You've walked out of the invincible realm? The big fish was slightly surprised, turned around, and whipped him with its tail. Bam! He smashed through layers of coral reefs and left a gully hundreds of meters long at the bottom of the sea. Puff! Blood spurted out of Han Fei's mouth. At that time, he was speechless. Is a phantom so powerful? What would happen if his main body was here? Wouldn't it be able to blow me to death with just a breath? Besides, Han Fei felt that the big fish didn't seem to have spent any effort to defeat him. Beside her, the little time dragon carp was crying. Mom, take me away. Take me Mom, I don't want to be here. Mom, I want to eat delicious food. The big fish tilted its head helplessly. Baby, you can't go out for the time being. Wait a little longer. Wasn't this person going to give you food? You can eat his food. With that, the phantom big fish looked at Han Fei. Human, take out all the delicious food. Han Fei? Han Fei propped up his body with his feet, cast the divine healing technique on himself, stepped on the spirit-gathering array under his feet, and instantly took a breath of cold air. With a flash between his eyebrows, little black and little white appeared. Fuse, eat, don't bully me like this. I can't beat you, but I can assure you that if you kill me, someone will definitely come to kill your daughter. However, the big fish exclaimed in surprise again. Suddenly, Han Fei felt that the surrounding seawater was twisting. In the blink of an eye, his fusion state disappeared without a trace. Mom, take me away. Take me Mom, I don't want to be here. Mom, I want to eat delicious food. The big fish tilted its head helplessly again. Baby, you can't go out for the time being. Wait a little longer. Wasn't this person going to give you food? You can eat his food. Han Fei heard that the little time dragon carp was crying and pestering the big fish phantom, but the big fish phantom said exactly the same words as just now. What's going on? No. Han Fei hurriedly looked at his feet, then at Xiao Sei, and then at the little time dragon carp, and he was shocked. Time reversal? Fuck your mother? Han Fei was completely dumbfounded. His heart was in turmoil. This fish could go back in time. Could it control time? Gulp. The big fish phantom looked at Han Fei. Summon your spiritual beast. Han Fei asked nervously, Dabu. The big fish phantom said lightly, Don't worry, it's easy for me to kill you. Let me see those two little fish. Han Fei gritted his teeth and pondered for a moment. With a flash between his eyebrows, little black and little white appeared again. He was also helpless. As long as the illusory figure in front of him was around the same level of strength as him. Even if it was just a little stronger, he couldn't back down. However, this thing on the other side was already so powerful that it could even turn back time. Who could withstand this? If he didn't summon little black and little white, it might kill him immediately. But Han Fei wasn't so afraid. If he couldn't, he could still use the sky dissecting finger. Xiao Sei was dumbfounded. Where did these two little fish come from? There's only one of them. However, he was just a bystander now. He didn't dare to speak, ask, or make a sound. The big fish phantom looked at Little Black and Little White for a long time, and then looked at Han Fei with a very complicated expression. You, how can you? Forget it, in this small place, you are also a unique genius. Forget it, are you willing to be my son's guardian? Han Fei narrowed his eyes, immediately put away Little Black and Little White, and then said, No, I can't be someone else's servant. Han Fei was counting the time. He decided to enter Forge the Universe. I can't beat you, but I can hide from you. You want me to call a fish little master like Xiao Sei? Don't even think about it. Just as Han Fei was about to enter Forge the Universe, he heard the big fish phantom say, Then forget it. After all, you have just embarked on the road to invincibility. You should have the pride that a strong person should have. Otherwise, the road to invincibility will be broken, and you will have no value. A golden light flashed on the top of the big fish phantom's head, and Han Fei's hand tightened, and a quaint ring fell on his hand. Han Fei's face changed drastically. What is this? The big fish phantom said, Don't worry, I just left a mark on you. Although you can't be my son's guardian, you have to promise me one thing, or I will kill you now. As for your threat, humph, that's just a joke. Your horizons are still too small. Han Fei swallowed. Senior, what's the matter? How could Han Fei have a backer? He was just bragging. His ultimate move was only the sky-severing finger. Of course, he wouldn't use it if he could. With the strength of this guy in front of him, even Old Bai wouldn't be able to survive a slap from his tail. Could Old Bai turn back time? Even if he reluctantly took Ren Tianfei as his backer, he knew nothing about that guy. Would he be willing to fight such a super fierce beast for him? Han Fei felt very uncertain. After all, he hadn't even met Ren Tianfei once. Ren Tianfei probably didn't even know that he was dead. The big fish phantom said lightly, In the future, when the time is right, I will send my son to stay with you for a while. Han Fei blinked. When will the time be right? The big fish phantom said lightly, Wait until you can overcome your own catastrophe. If you can't even avoid your own catastrophe, forget what I said, and the fate between you and my son will be broken at this time. Han Fei couldn't help but frown. This big fish seemed to know something. He couldn't help asking, Senior, what catastrophe will I have? Love catastrophe? Bam! Han Fei directly crashed into the coral pile, harder than before, crushing hundreds of meters of coral bushes. Han Fei was speechless. You hit me again? Why do you keep hitting me? There is a faceless man on the ghost ship, and he said I would have a love catastrophe. I thought the catastrophe was a love catastrophe. The big fish phantom said, It's a catastrophe. You will know it when you meet it in the future. Otherwise, how can it be a catastrophe? Han Fei coughed and got up. Senior, can you give me a hint so that I can prepare for it? The big fish rolled its eyes at Han Fei. How can you prepare for it? Mom. The big fish phantom's body began to fade, and it coaxed Han Fei. Baby, remember this little brother. If you have a chance to see him in the future, call him little brother. If he asks you to call him dad, you tell mom and mom will slap him to death. Han Fei, Xiao Sei was trembling. Han Fei was not beaten to death? And he even had a chance with Little Master? Isn't this fucking nonsense? Why is my opportunity to be a Dao Guardian? Han Fei's chance is to take care of Little Master for a while? Han Fei was embarrassed. However, he still said seriously, Senior, I will solve my own catastrophe. But can you tell Little Time not to eat people? In fact, there are still a lot of creatures with energy in the ocean. How much energy can a human have? The big fish phantom suddenly looked at Han Fei. What do you call baby? Han Fei was taken aback. Little Time. Why Little Time? Han Fei thought of something. I don't fucking know this kind of fish. Little Black and Little White have been exposed, but the demon purification pot must not be exposed. So Han Fei hurriedly said, Well, didn't you just go back in time? This name is okay. The big fish phantom nodded slightly. My son never eats people. This crack is a place to devour energy. With or without my son, it will devour energy. Those who are completely lost will die, and their energy will return to heaven and earth. My son just absorbs the energy that returns to heaven and earth. Even if my son really eats them, it's just the law of nature. Humans and fishes eat each other. This is the law of nature. Do you think humans are the wisest of all creatures? Han Fei smiled awkwardly. He didn't want to answer this. Anyway, this hurdle has passed. I'm not going to discuss this with you. What if you don't like it and regret it? What if you smack me to death with your tail? Then the big fish phantom glanced at Xiao Sei. Humph, your talent is not weak, but your strength is so poor. You tried to trick my son into teaching you the forbidden time technique with energy. Today, I will take away your reverse light technique as punishment. With that, a mysterious light rose from Xiao Sei's body and was swallowed by the big fish. Xiao Sei quickly responded respectfully, "Thank you for sparing my life, master." Feeling that the atmosphere was a little weird, Little Time looked left and right, and then rubbed her head against the big fish phantom. "Mum, I want to eat. I want to go out to play. Let me out." While Little Time was acting coquettishly, the big fish phantom looked at Han Fei. Han Fei quickly said, "Little Time, come on, I have a lot of delicious food here." Han Fei threw out a lot of things at that time. He threw out 100 yellow-blooded sea cucumbers and all the crisps. There were also all kinds of octopuses, big fish, and crabs piled up like a mountain. Han Fei grinned and said, "Little Time, it's all for you. All for you." Little Time plopped into the pile of food and said sweetly, "Thank you, little brother." Seeing Han Fei taking out food like a bottomless pit, Xiao Sei was speechless. "How much food do you have? Are you really a normal cultivator? Which fucking normal person would come to the level 3 fishery and take out so much food?" The big fish phantom nodded in satisfaction and then said to Xiao Sei, "From now on, feed my son according to this standard." Then the big fish phantom said to Han Fei, "You shouldn't be here now. Let's go." Wait. The big fish phantom looked at Han Fei and seemed a little dissatisfied. Han Fei quickly said, "Well, senior, can I ask where this is? Maybe I can bring delicious food for Little Time in the future. I'm a good eater. I can eat anything." The big fish phantom said lightly, "This is the river of time, which reflects the past here. If my son hadn't called you, you wouldn't have been able to come in at all, and you don't need to come in. After you pass the life and death tribulation, you will have your own destiny." As the water rippled slightly, Han Fei felt that the beautiful scenery in front of him disappeared with a swish. When he reappeared, he had already appeared on the dragon boat. I was so scared. Chapter 502. Han Fei frowned bitterly. Was this an opportunity? Anyway, he felt that he had suffered a big loss for the time being. Not to mention anything else, he had given almost all the food except the yellow-blooded sea cucumber to Little Time. It wasn't that he wanted to give it to her, but that the big fish stared at him as if it could see through him. Han Fei immediately got up and was about to leave. He couldn't stay in this place any longer. Otherwise, when Little Time finished eating, she might have to ask him for more food. Just as Han Fei was about to leave, he saw a slight movement in the thick fog and Xiao Sei appeared in front of Han Fei again. However, at this moment, Xiao Sei was no longer a sallow and muscular man, but a handsome young man with outstanding temperament. Han Fei looked at him coldly and said, "What do you want now?" Xiao Sei said lightly, "You and I are not enemies now, so you don't have to be on guard against me. I think it's necessary to explain what happened before to you." Han Fei sneered. "What's there to explain? You can't be a good person, but who knows you can't be a bad person?" Xiao Sei ignored Han Fei's sarcasm and just said, "I will send those people back." Han Fei asked in surprise, "Those people are not dead?" Xiao Sei shook his head. "Not everyone can go to the space you went to. You shouldn't have gone there. It was Little Master's summon. This is your opportunity." Han Fei sneered. "Then where did you want to send me before?" Xiao Sei didn't answer but took a deep look at Han Fei. "I came out to tell you a few things. Seeing that you have prepared so much food, I know that your goal must not be on the dragon boat. Since it is not here, it must be in the chasm. Han Fei thought to himself, I really don't know whether I should tell you or not. In fact, no matter where I go, I bring a lot of food. Xiao Sei continued, the abyssal chasm is weird. The reason why Little Master wants to live here temporarily is actually to share some of the energy of the abyssal chasm. In the real chasm, there is not even a blade of grass growing. I know you have a lot of food, but you may not be able to withstand it. Han Fei narrowed his eyes slightly. You mean, the degree of energy devouring in the abyssal chasm is stronger than here? Xiao Sei nodded seriously. It should be. I've only been there once. Let me remind you, don't enter the mystic realm whenever you see one. Also, Master wants me to tell you that in order to punish you for your rude words just now, he will give you a small punishment. Han Fei was lost for words. You're still punishing me? I've been patted several times. Isn't that enough? Xiao Sei thought to himself, what are you speechless about? You even dare to be the time dragon carp's father, and you're still speechless? You should be thankful you're not dead. Han Fei did not care about the minor punishment at all, but he suddenly asked seriously, I want to ask you a few questions. Since you can come back safely, why didn't you save them? Xiao Sei smiled and shook his head. I've already told you that the place you went to was the River of Time. It's actually not here at all. Don't I need food to save people? Are you kidding me? You didn't want to let those people go. Are you planning to keep them as energy to trap Little Time's forbidden time technique? Xiao Sei was silent for a moment. Firstly, I don't have any food, so I can't save them. Secondly, since they are destined to die, why not contribute their own energy? But now, it doesn't matter. Little Master has never eaten humans. She only eats the energy of those who are no longer human. Han Fei frowned. Do those people have anything to do with you? Xiao Sei shook his head. What about the underwater ferryman? Did you do it? Xiao Sei froze for a moment. I'm 17 this year. How could it be me? Humph. Han Fei was speechless. Then where did they come from? Xiao Sei thought for a moment. Of course, from the depths of the chasm. Neither you nor I can reach the depths of the chasm, so it's useless for you to guess. Humph, do you think I'm the same as you? Xiao Sei smiled. Maybe. Then you are a little stronger, but your result will be the same. That's all I have to say. Whether you go or not, that's your business. I don't care. Huh. Xiao Sei shook his head slightly. Pay attention to the vortex. Near the abyssal chasm, there will occasionally be a death vortex. You'd better avoid it if you encounter it. Han Fei wondered, just one? Xiao Sei was speechless. How many more do you want? Every time the death vortex appears, someone will go there. If I hadn't had a special method, I wouldn't have been able to avoid it. Han Fei was thinking. Since the death vortex was dangerous, he might as well avoid it if he encountered it. Anyway, his speed was not slow, and he wouldn't be unable to avoid a vortex in the sea. Xiao Sei said, but, Han Fei immediately said angrily, can you finish your words at once? Xiao Sei took a deep look at Han Fei. However, I'm not sure where the vortex leads, but it may lead to the abyssal chasm. Of course, you were too presumptuous just now, and your punishment may be there. The corner of Han Fei's mouth twitched. He always felt that he couldn't find the way at all after coming here. He appeared in the Dead Sea inexplicably. He just casually entered a ray of light and he found himself in a fairyland. Now, there was a fucking vortex that would take him to nowhere. Han Fei snorted. Which direction? Xiao Sei raised his hand and pointed to the stern. Without saying a word, Han Fei jumped down into the sea. After swimming for 1,000 kilometers, Han Fei already felt that his energy consumption had increased. Therefore, he directly covered his body with a spiritual energy protective cover to prevent the energy from escaping. Maybe he didn't have enough energy, but he definitely had enough spiritual energy. After swimming for about 3,000 kilometers, he found that there were no more creatures in the sea. There weren't even any plankton that was slightly larger, let alone the blue fish. Han Fei ran to the bottom of the sea and took a look, only to find that it was desolate. There was nothing but sand and gravel. There wasn't even seaweed or green algae, let alone anything hidden under the sand. He swam for a full day. When Han Fei felt his heart palpitate, he saw a trench. To be precise, he didn't know if this was a trench, because the crack was too big. He looked around and finally, at the beginning of the crack, he could see cliffs on both sides. Further in, the crack spread wider and finally disappeared. Han Fei quickly took out the map that Ren Tianfei left for him. At this moment, it was useless to use Old Bai's map. Old Bai's map was the entire level 3 fishery. However, although Ren Tianfei had drawn a lot of maps, the other places of the level 3 fishery were probably just doodles, except for the abyssal chasm. On the map, it was a pattern that looked like a long and narrow eye. Judging from the position of the Hurricane Sea, Han Fei was now at the corner of one of the eyes. However, Ren Tianfei was really good at choosing positions. His treasure map had almost fallen right in the middle of that huge eye. If one were to divide it by the eyes, then this guy would directly place the treasure on the upper eyelid, which was closer to the inner area. Han Fei's first thought was to go around. I should go around to the middle and then enter directly from there, instead of swimming directly to the middle from the corner of the eye. Thinking of this method, Han Fei immediately swam to the periphery of the long and narrow eye, intending to cut in horizontally. Swish, clang, clang, clang. But after swimming for more than 300 kilometers, Han Fei suddenly took action and shattered a piece of sword chi overflowing from the crack. He was dumbfounded. From here, there was a lot of sword chi. Was the periphery blocked? In other words, the periphery of this eye seemed to be wrapped by a wall of sword chi. And Han Fei looked up and began to swim up from below. Swish, swish, swish. Above, the sword chi was even more violent, like hundreds of millions of sword chi currents swimming on the bottom of the sea. Han Fei only swam up less than 1,000 meters and his body was cut with dozens of wounds. Yes, even his powerful indestructible body was pierced. Was the indestructible body not strong enough? No, Han Fei was very sure that the indestructible body was very strong. However, the sword chi escaping from the abyssal chasm was even stronger. Shit! How come there are so many domineering sword chi currents? Han Fei continued to look up, only to find that the higher he went, the denser the sword chi currents were, to the point that they were visible to the naked eye. What the fuck? Is there only one way? I'm forced to break in directly. Han Fei walked around for a long time and could only return to the starting point. Anyway, the entrance was only so big, so he had to go in. However, he didn't see the vortex that Xiao Sei said, so he rushed in directly. Han Fei's speed was not slow. With little gold attached to him, he was extremely fast. However, just less than 2 minutes after Han Fei rushed into the abyssal chasm, he felt a huge suction falling on him. Oh no! Han Fei's face suddenly changed. Even with little gold attached to him, his speed was still reduced by more than half in an instant. It turned out that in the sea, a huge vortex suddenly appeared, which should be the one that Xiao Sei said. To Han Fei's horror, although seawater vortexes were normal and there were many possibilities to form them, they were basically waterspouts that came from the bottom up. Just like when water was released from a pool, there would always be a vortex formed at the outlet. However, Han Fei saw that the vortex seemed to appear out of nowhere, and it was hundreds of meters wide the moment it appeared. This small vortex was a hole in the center of the vortex. It was completely a fucking black hole, but it was different from a portal. At least the portal had a rotating light and shadow, but the black hole was just like the black holes in the universe that Han Fei knew, just a fucking black circle. Around the black hole, Han Fei was spinning frantically. Majestic mystic spell. At this moment, Han Fei didn't dare to hold back at all. The unknown was often full of mystery and horror. As soon as the majestic mystic spell was activated, Han Fei's speed doubled again, even faster than before. Han Fei's face was full of smiles. You want me to suck you? Do you think you can suck me? However, in the blink of an eye, the smile on Han Fei's face froze. He turned around and immediately cursed, "What the fuck? How did it catch up?" Chapter 503. Han Fei really didn't know why there were so many strange things in the underwater world. Any one of them could make one's hair stand on end. What about himself? Wherever he went, he would encounter a bunch of them. The huge black hole seemed to have eyes. Seeing that it didn't suck Han Fei, it began to move. What made Han Fei speechless was that the black hole didn't move but suddenly approached him thousands of meters away. It was like Xia Xiaochan's teleportation, appearing very abruptly. As soon as Han Fei escaped from the suction of this black hole, he was sucked in again. This time, he was not as lucky as before. Just now, the distance was far away, so Han Fei could still rush out. This time, Little Gold couldn't even flap his wings. Han Fei immediately crushed a flash stone. As a result, something even more amazing happened. Han Fei felt that he had moved out. But in a mysterious way, he was sucked back in and landed on the same spot. Fuck? Is the flash stone useless? However, the moment Han Fei looked back, he saw a shadow slithering like a snake in the black hole. Huh? Is there something in it? Suddenly, Han Fei didn't resist. A moment ago, he resisted because he was afraid that this black hole would tear apart everything it sucked in like a real black hole. But since there was a creature in it, and it was the first creature he had seen after swimming for so long, he felt that since other creatures wouldn't be torn apart, neither would he. Immediately, Little Gold was taken back by Han Fei. And he also put on an ultra-quality battle suit and pressed one hand on the blood-drinking knife. He didn't remove the majestic mystic spell. Since this black hole had targeted him, it must be dangerous, so a battle was inevitable. Now, since Han Fei learned the art of invincibility, as long as the enemy was not too strong, he would fight it. Even if he didn't want to fight, he wouldn't be afraid. It seemed that his fear had long been eaten up by this art of invincibility. I hate those who pretend to be mysterious the most. Come out and fight. Han Fei turned around and rushed to the black hole at an incredible speed under the suction force. Sure enough, Han Fei only felt the suction, but didn't feel the feeling of tearing his body. This was undoubtedly a good sign, so he immediately formed a fist seal. Bang! A dazzling fist radiance smashed towards the incomparably huge black hole. Pop! The moment Han Fei touched the black hole, it was as if he had entered another underwater space from the seawater, a bit like the sky mirror of the mist salt marsh. However, it was extremely dark here, and Han Fei's golden fist mark hit the void. Even the dazzling gold couldn't light up this pitch-black place. Suddenly, Han Fei had a sense of crisis. He subconsciously moved his body sideways and punched the darkness behind him. Bang! Han Fei had no idea what the golden fist mark landed on. Initially, it felt soft and then hard, like flesh and bones. In the light of the fist, Han Fei saw a ball-sized eye staring at him in the darkness. Data appeared in his eyes. Named Abyssal Water Serpent, Introduction, it was originally an ordinary sea snake, but it mistakenly drank the blood essence of a powerhouse and turned into a venomous snake. It took 500 years to become a flood dragon, 1,000 years to become a dragon, and 10,000 years to become a true dragon. Its wings are slightly spread, its speed is extremely fast, its mouth spits poisonous flames, its strength is 490,000 kilograms, and its defense is extremely strong. Level 42 quality, exotic, mutated, contains spiritual energy greater than 6,285 points, edible effect. It can be eaten to strengthen the body, soul, and strength. Collectible tendons, blood, flesh, gallbladder, and teeth. Note greater than 498 years of venomous snake, about to become a flood dragon. After seeing the creature in front of him, Han Fei immediately breathed a sigh of relief. It turned out to be a venomous snake. Bang! Han Fei felt the water flow in the darkness, as if a huge wave was crashing over, and he immediately punched out. Above his fists, hundreds of fist shadows blasted out. Han Fei clearly saw that it was a huge tail. Just one tail was more than 10 meters long. Then how big was this abyssal water venomous snake? Han Fei was slapped away, but the power of the giant tail had already been neutralized. The huge body of the abyssal water venomous snake was not much better than Han Fei. It was even more miserable, and one of its tails was almost smashed. However, Han Fei was also quite shocked. Is this a fucking level 42 creature? Han Fei was a little stunned. Do you think I've never beaten an inferior manfish before? Han Fei was not bragging, but the power of the tail just now was enough to flatten a level 45 inferior manfish. He was now an advanced dangling fisher, but he failed to smash this tail with the majestic mystic spell. In the next moment, Han Fei felt a current full of fishy smell gushing at him, and the seawater was full of sticky things. Poison? Han Fei frowned in disgust. Is this abyssal water venomous snake starting to spew poison? I've eaten the venomous tulip. There's no poison that can poison me in the level 3 fishery. Han Fei clenched his fists, and instead of retreating, he rushed up. His left hand clenched into a fist and shrank under his armpit. His right hand clenched into a fist, which was dazzling with golden light. In the darkness, it was like a dazzling sun, too brilliant. At the moment when Han Fei rushed up, there were 3 bursts of spiritual energy on his right hand, and before he punched out, 3 splashes of water tens of meters in diameter broke out in the water. The golden fist was like an advancing rocket, and the shadow of the fist was tens of meters in diameter. Oh! In the darkness, the abyssal water venomous snake opened its mouth, and a mass of billowing spiritual waves rolled in its throat, spurting at Han Fei. Humph. Strange creatures, so what? Mutant creatures, so what? I'll beat you. Boom. In the darkness, a golden fist light instantly penetrated the billowing spiritual waves and blasted at the abyssal water venomous snake's head like a sharp arrow. The huge body of the abyssal water venomous snake rolled dozens of times in the water under Han Fei's punch. Han Fei hurriedly stuffed a piece of yellow-blooded sea cucumber into his mouth, and then immediately followed up. When Han Fei stepped on the abyssal water venomous snake's head, he found out how big it was. Just its head was 5 or 6 meters in size. At this moment, a large part of the abyssal water venomous snake's forehead was dented, and one of its eyeballs was blown out. Behind Han Fei, he found that the back of this big snake was trembling, and fan-like wings were growing out. It wasn't even a wing, it was more like a large piece of vibrating fins. However, when spread out, it was nearly 3 meters long, so it looked like wings. But compared with the huge body of the abyssal water venomous snake, it could only be regarded as a fin. Han Fei stood on the abyssal water venomous snake's head and put the blood-drinking knife against its forehead. Be quiet or I'll chop you. Bam. Han Fei felt that his head suddenly went blank, and a kind of needle-like pain drilled into his head. However, the demon purification pot immediately spun, and the pain disappeared. Unfortunately, in such a short time, the abyssal water venomous snake began to run away. How could Han Fei let it run away? He immediately threw out his fishing hook, and the void-breaking technique traversed 100 meters and hooked the abyssal water venomous snake. So a huge water venomous snake pulled a person and began to swim wildly in the deep sea. After only a few minutes, Han Fei felt that his eyes lit up. It was no longer the desperate black. Although it was still dark, Han Fei could see. Shoot! Han Fei was taken aback. Just now, when they were fighting in the dark, he didn't notice it. But now that he could see, he saw a super big snake with a length of 70 or 80 meters, dragging him and swinging him. Bam! The abyssal water venomous snake slapped Han Fei to the ground and dragged him away. Han Fei said angrily, "You want to do this the hard way? I wasn't going to kill you, but now I'm going to kill you." Han Fei suddenly retracted the fishing rod and rushed forward quickly, followed by 99 blue sea wandering dragon daggers shooting out. The long sword was like a dragon, directly strangling the abyssal water venomous snake. Clank, clank, clank. Han Fei was slightly taken aback. What a strong defense. An ultra-quality spiritual weapon didn't tear it apart? I'll cut off your wings. Let's see how you can run. Seeing that the abyssal water venomous snake couldn't penetrate its body, the blue sea wandering dragon daggers curled again, and the 2 conjoined wings of 20 or 30 meters long were directly smashed by Han Fei. Boom! The abyssal water venomous snake's head hit the ground. Han Fei landed on its head again and sat on its head. Above his fists, golden light dazzled, and they fell on the snake's head like raindrops. Dum dum dum. Dum dum dum. Chapter 504. Even this abyssal water serpent didn't expect that it would encounter such a formidable opponent today. It was so small, but it was so fierce that Han Fei couldn't beat it. After a few minutes, Han Fei stopped punching. Then, Han Fei crazily stuffed the yellow-blooded sea cucumber into his mouth. It was because this abyssal water serpent was too difficult to defeat. It didn't look like a level 42 creature at all. The inferior manfish was so small that it couldn't even be smacked by its tail. In terms of strength, this abyssal water serpent was not weaker than him at all. In terms of speed, he was almost left behind just now. In terms of defense, even Han Fei's ultra-quality spiritual weapon couldn't hurt it. How could a level 42 creature be so strong? Han Fei thought that if he had been using the majestic mystic spell, he would have been smacked to death by this guy. Han Fei guessed that this was probably the punishment given to him by the big fish that Xiao Sei mentioned. Otherwise, how could there be a creature in this damn place? He didn't even have energy, but a creature suddenly popped out. Was this not a gift? That big fish underestimated you. I'm a heavenly talent. I was just worried that I couldn't find a powerful creature, and you just sent me one. Now I can fuse with it. Son of a bitch, collect the demon. In Han Fei's consciousness space, the demon purification pot flickered, and the huge body of the abyssal water serpent trembled slightly. The demon collection failed. Pang! Another punch. Do you understand human language? If you don't yield, I'll kill you. Bam! Collect the demon. However, this time, it didn't succeed again. Han Fei's face suddenly darkened. This is a creature that I killed at the risk of my life. How dare you say that you don't obey me? Do you think you can get away with it if you don't obey me? Han Fei's fist punched at a point on the snake's head crazily. In the end, one of its bones was broken, and a small hole was smashed open on its head. You don't yield, do you? Okay, I like stubborn people. Little Black. With a flash between Han Fei's eyebrows, Little Black and Little White appeared. Han Fei pointed at the hole in front of him and said, Little Black, get in. Don't kill it. You can eat anywhere else, but save the tendons and gall for me. This was not the first time that Little Black and Han Fei had cooperated like this. When Little Black drilled into the snake's head, the abyssal water serpent beneath it began to thrash wildly. Following that, his body began to roll and his tail began to beat. Collect the demons. Submit or die. What's your choice? Collect the demons. Believe me, although you will become a flood dragon in 2 years, I may not be able to defeat you at that time. However, you're still a snake, so you'll have to coil up. Collect the demons. Hey, big guy, do you understand what I'm saying? Give up resisting. You will become a better version of yourself. What was a flood dragon? As long as you follow me, the flood dragon can kill one with a swing of its tail. Han Fei was bluffing on the side. Anyway, bragging was free, so he bragged as hard as he could. In fact, Han Fei believed that neither the nine-tailed mantis shrimp nor Little Gold would have low achievements in the future. The quality of this abyssal water serpent was not bad, and it could even be said to be too strong. Although it would not be the original after the fusion, it would at least be a part of the fused creature, right? Finally, after the abyssal water serpent was in great pain, it turned into a stream of light and disappeared on Han Fei's wrist. At this time, in the seawater, Little Black was still biting. However, with a clatter, he didn't bite anything. He couldn't help but be stunned. Han Fei smiled and said, Son, good job. Little Black swam over to Han Fei, bumped Han Fei's chest, and turned a few times in the water. Han Fei couldn't help muttering. No matter how powerful a creature was, it would still be collected. Why did it have to suffer so much? Han Fei turned his head and glanced at Little White. Daughter, do you feel any danger? Little White suddenly blinked her eyes and opened her mouth to Han Fei. Do you want something to eat? Han Fei immediately threw a spiritual fruit to Little White. For a time, spiritual energy surged on Little White and Little Black, but it only lasted for a very short time. Now, a spiritual fruit didn't seem to be enough to feed these two little things. So Han Fei threw another one to Little White. At this time, Little White swallowed a mouthful of seawater, bit Han Fei's body, and seemed to want to go back. Go back? Han Fei frowned slightly. It's impossible to go back. We finally came in and haven't got the treasure yet. Han Fei felt that the so-called black hole was actually a road, a real road to the depths of the chasm. The main reason why he was so sure was that this water was absorbing more and more energy. According to the time Koi, Han Fei was more convinced. Putting away Little Black and Little White, Han Fei entered Forge the Universe. Although the battle just now was short and neat, Han Fei used the art of invincibility, which really consumed too much energy. In the past, Han Fei always carried a stick, or used the million knife art, or the draw technique. But since learning the art of invincibility, Han Fei felt that he could fight anything, and he felt that he could kill a dragon with a single punch. And the more he thought about it, the more Han Fei wanted to fight. What was the flaw of the art of invincibility? It was related to the user's own physique. The stronger the physique, the more powerful the art of invincibility. In contrast, the stronger the physique, the more powerful the art of invincibility would be, and the more energy it would consume. For example, before this, Han Fei still felt full. But now, he felt his stomach deflate, and he felt like he was about to collapse. In Forge the Universe, Han Fei had a good meal. At the same time, he also refined a big shield. It was not because Han Fei's defensive power was not strong enough. In fact, Han Fei's offensive and defensive abilities were already strong enough. There seemed to be no hope for him to become stronger in the short term. After all, Han Fei was already armed to the teeth. If an ultra-quality spiritual weapon couldn't hurt a creature, it might hurt him. Therefore, building a big shield would at least give him one more guarantee. After eating and drinking, Han Fei continued to set off. Holding the map in one hand, he searched for similar places according to the map. In particular, in the Abyssal Chasm, there were actually 3 main secret realms. Han Fei found that the second secret realm coincided with the treasure point on Ren Tianfei's map. The first mystic realm should be nearby. After swimming for about 200 kilometers, Han Fei suddenly saw a dilapidated gate tower. Is this still a fucking secret realm? Why is it so obvious? This gate tower was as high as 100 meters. On both sides of the gate tower, there were 2 broken statues. The man on the left was holding a huge stick in his hand, which was inserted into the ground. The head of the man on the right was gone, and one hand was on his waist, holding a saber, half of which was broken. In the middle, Han Fei only saw a mountain of rocks. Standing in front of the gate tower, Han Fei was about to step in, but his heart faintly trembled. I can't go in. Han Fei remembered that when he came to the level 3 fishery, his teacher once said that he didn't need to enter some secret realms to know whether they were dangerous or not. Until now, Han Fei hadn't encountered such a secret realm. But here he felt it. That feeling was very strange. He felt that as long as he really entered it, he would most likely die or even die. It was extremely dangerous. Besides, Han Fei also remembered Xiao Sei's words. Not all secret realms could be entered at will. Is the first secret realm so dangerous? Besides, the demon purification pot didn't react at all. It won't be too late for me to come back after I get my hands on Ren Tianfei's treasure. With this in mind, Han Fei simply let go of this secret realm. When Han Fei crossed this secret realm and swam for about 500 kilometers, he still didn't encounter a single creature. Naturally, there was no danger along the way. It seemed that in the entire abyssal chasm, there was only one abyssal water serpent. Han Fei was even more certain that the abyssal water serpent was definitely not here. It might have been released by the big fish during some time. Thinking of this, Han Fei couldn't help but shiver. Raising a daughter in time and releasing creatures from time? Wasn't this a bit too terrifying? Swish! Han Fei was swimming happily, looking forward to reaching the most central area as soon as possible. But suddenly, a white sword mark swept across the seawater and swept at him. I knew it wouldn't be so easy. Clang. Holding the embroidery needle, Han Fei smashed the sword mark with his rod and then slowly stopped. He saw that there seemed to be other sword marks flashing in front of him. Judging from what he felt just now, the sword mark was actually not weak and seemed to be even stronger than the blow of an intermediate dangling fissure. Ha! Han Fei just paused for a moment and then continued to move forward. This was an ownerless sword mark, the same as the sword wall outside this chasm canyon. Although Han Fei didn't know why it was formed, it seemed to be the residual sword intent that burst out spontaneously. It could only be said that a peerless master once fought here. That person was very strong, and the sword intent he left was still wandering to this day. After swimming for more than 500 kilometers, there were more and more sword marks. At first, there were only 1 or 2, but here, Han Fei found that there were as many as 100 sword marks within a kilometer. They wandered around in the seawater like streamlined elves. Once someone approached, these sword marks would sweep at him. After being smashed by Han Fei one by one, these sword marks never appeared again. Has no one been here before? It shouldn't be. Han Fei wondered. If these sword marks disappeared and would never appear again, they should have been cleaned up long ago. Why were there so many? And they were getting denser and denser? At this time, Han Fei had cleaned up the area within a kilometer radius and kept his spiritual energy protective cover activated. After about 5 minutes, suddenly, a white sword mark emerged from the ground. Then, one after another, more sword marks emerged from the rock wall. Wow! If it was someone who didn't use a sword, he certainly wouldn't know what this meant. Although Han Fei didn't use a sword, he used a knife. What he had learned all his life came from the heaven-level, divine-quality knife scripture. Although there was only one real combat skill in the knife scripture, it was the draw technique. But for Han Fei, this knife was also invincible. If Han Fei used the draw technique to cut off a rock, he would be able to use the draw technique. Then, a strong knife intent would naturally be left on the rock. This kind of thing, like a ghost, diffused in the cracks of the stone. If it was not completely shattered, it would basically not disappear. And now Han Fei had a faint guess. The chasm canyon that he had been swimming in for a long time seemed to have been cut out by someone with a sword. Therefore, on the periphery of the canyon, there was a circle of sword chi wall, which ordinary people would be smashed when they touched it. Ren Tianfei, aren't you leading me into a trap? Chapter 505. Han Fei cursed Ren Tianfei 10,000 times in his heart. If this crack was really created by someone's sword as Han Fei had guessed, then it would be very strange. What kind of existence would be able to unleash such a terrifying sword strike? Besides, the further he went, the stronger the sword intent was. The stronger the sword intent was, the stronger the sword intent was. As Han Fei expected, wearing an ultra-quality battle suit, he didn't slow down at all and swam straight for more than 2,000 kilometers. The sword chi was getting stronger as he expected. At the beginning, it was still the sword intent of an intermediate dangling fissure. But now, the power contained in each sword chi was no weaker than the full blow of an advanced dangling fissure. Han Fei looked at the map. According to the scale on the map, he was at least 5,000 kilometers away from the treasure left by Ren Tianfei. Damn this old guy. No wonder I can't come here even when I'm a dangling fissure. If it were someone else, I would have been killed. After 1,000 kilometers, the sword chi had surpassed the realm of an advanced dangling fissure. After 2,000 kilometers, within a kilometer, there were thousands of sword chi, which had almost reached the attack of an ordinary peak-level dangling fissure. After 3,000 kilometers, the sword chi had completely reached the level of a peak-level dangling fissure. Among them, there were occasionally 1 or 2 attacks that surpassed the realm of an ordinary peak-level dangling fissure. After 4,000 kilometers, Han Fei was slashed into Forge the Universe. His spiritual energy protective cover couldn't hold any longer, and Han Fei had to eat a large piece of sea cucumber almost every 100 kilometers. Han Fei had an illusion. Why did the crack consume human energy? It was most likely due to this sword of the Almighty. Think about it. Don't these sword intents need energy? Where does this energy come from? It can only be absorbed from the surroundings. Of course, this might be more than one reason, but at least it was one of the reasons. At this moment, Han Fei was full and shouted, "Majestic mystic spell." Yes, the sword chi after 4,000 kilometers had reached the level of the immortals' slaying formation. If Han Fei hadn't become an advanced dangling fisher, he might have to take a break every 100 kilometers. After entering Forge the Universe 3 times in a row, Han Fei finally came to the 5,000-kilometer range. Swish, swish. The sword light was like snow, and the hundreds of blue sea wandering dragon daggers flew around him and mixed with the sword light. Shield. Han Fei took out the big shield, held it in front of him, and rushed forward. Clang, clang, clang. Fortunately, although the sword chi was strong, it was not enough to shatter the supreme-grade spiritual weapon in one go. Otherwise, the supreme-grade spiritual weapon would not have any sense of existence. However, after only a few dozen kilometers, the places on Han Fei's body that were not covered by the battle suit were already covered with bloodstains. At this point, any random sword chi in the seawater could leave a sword mark on his body. And that was when he used the majestic mystic spell. Son of a bitch. Luckily, I didn't come earlier. Otherwise, I would have been hacked to death here. Clang, clang, clang. Sword chi was like a waterfall. Han Fei, who was holding an ultra-quality spiritual shield, was forced to retreat. The blue sea wandering dragon daggers around him could barely protect him. At this moment, the sword chi was no longer as simple as it seemed to be in the thousands. There were tens of thousands of them densely packed together. Damn it, Ren Tianfei, you old bastard. Sooner or later, I'll settle the score with you. Explode. With a muffled roar, Han Fei punched the big shield and blasted the big shield forward with the art of invincibility. Bim, bim, bim. Han Fei didn't know how many punches he had thrown. Anyway, in the short distance of 100 kilometers, he entered Forge the Universe 7 times. When he came out again, Han Fei took advantage of the moment he came out to look around. Suddenly, he found that there was a large tablet standing on the ground thousands of meters away. On the big tablet, it was written, "Hidden fissures and above, trespassers will die." Damn, here it is. Simple and clear, that's the style of that old bastard. As soon as he saw this tablet, Han Fei knew that it was definitely set up by that old bastard Ren Tianfei. Even the words on the tablet were the same as those outside the mantis shrimp cave in the boat-burying pit. He just changed his title from a fishing master to a hidden fisher. Han Fei didn't know where he got the strength, but he held the big shield and rushed all the way to this tablet against the flaming sword chi. Sure enough, behind this tablet, there was a hole only 4 or 5 meters in size. Bam! Without thinking, Han Fei jumped into the hole without any hesitation. No water? As soon as Han Fei came in, he found that the ground was dry and there was air here. Huff, huff, huff. Han Fei took a few deep breaths and looked down, only to find that the ultra-quality battle suit on his body was full of sword marks. Although the battle suit was not damaged, many places had been deflated, and its shape was not as good as before. Han Fei couldn't help but be shocked. In fact, he might not be able to hold on for another 200 or 300 kilometers. He didn't know how terrible it would be later. Damn it, fortunately, you didn't put the treasure at the back. Otherwise, I would have slipped away. Han Fei took a deep breath again, put away the big shield, and put his head near the hole. The sword chi that had lost its target once again turned into swimming white marks in the sea as if nothing had happened just now. Han Fei swallowed. The first secret realm was built on the edge of the cliff. That was because that secret realm was very dangerous, so there was no need to worry about people exploring it. And Ren Tianfei also stood on the edge of the cliff like others. That was because ordinary people couldn't resist the overwhelming sword chi outside at all. Han Fei wasn't bragging. Even if he was a hanging fisher without the strength of an advanced hanging fisher, he would definitely be killed by the overwhelming sword chi inside. After all, not everyone could cheat on his side. It was probably because of this that Ren Tianfei set up a Taoist stele on the edge of the cliff. I'm here. Old bastard Ren Tianfei, Here I come. Han Fei smiled smugly. It wasn't easy for him to make this trip. Inexplicably, he went from the Hurricane Sea to the Dead Sea, from the Dead Sea to the Dragon Boat, from the Dragon Boat to the otherworldly fairyland, overturned the deep-sea centipedes, and withstood the waterfall of Sword Chi. Han Fei couldn't help but sigh. It wasn't easy for me to make this trip. He was about to become a lunatic. Han Fei cast the divine healing technique on himself, got up, and looked around the cave. This seemed to be a downward slope leading to a cave deep in the cliff. Han Fei felt that it was a miracle that he could come all the way here. As a normal person, he took it for granted that he should go directly to find treasures like the Mantis Shrimp Cave. So Han Fei walked straight into the depths of the cave. Just after walking for more than 100 meters, he saw a large circular cave with a radius of nearly 300 meters. Han Fei grinned and rushed inside. However, as soon as he entered the cave, the flesh on his face froze. Because right in front of him, there were two big words written on a large stone wall. Han Fei was stunned for a long time, and then flew into a rage and cursed, "Why do you still want to test me?" There was no doubt that the words test were written on the wall, which meant that this was a test for him. With Ren Tianfei's character, he didn't even bother to say a few words. Maybe he just suddenly thought of it, so he wanted to test him before he took the treasures. Han Fei chuckled. "Test me? I've even withstood the Sword Chi. How can I be afraid of a test?" Han Fei was very confident in himself. After all, Ren Tianfei had only left him the indestructible body art, but he had underestimated his other experiences. Han Fei walked forward without hesitation. This was a purely circular cave, and there was no next entrance. Han Fei guessed that it would only appear after he passed this test. However, when Han Fei looked around, his face immediately darkened. He saw human skeletons, a total of 13. Han Fei frowned. It seems that many people have come here in the past 300 years. There are actually 13 dangling fishers who can come to this place? These skeletons died in strange ways. Some were embedded in the wall, some were sitting against the wall, some were embedded in the floor, and some were curled up into a ball. Han Fei's eyelids trembled. These skeletons must have been hit by a huge hammer. Among them, there were 5 skeletons embedded in the rock wall and 3 on the floor. Han Fei was speechless. How much strength did it take to hit people into the rock wall and the ground? Han Fei curled his lips and walked to the center of the cave. In terms of strength, Han Fei was confident that even Ren Tianfei himself could only be beaten by him when they were in the same realm. When Han Fei stood in the center of the cave, he felt the ground shake. Then, a ghost-like figure appeared 5 meters in front of Han Fei. This man had a messy beard and his hair was combed back, exposing his forehead. He looked like Einstein. But why is there someone else here? Han Fei? Han Fei was speechless. Can you talk? Of course, I'm not dead. Of course I can talk. Han Fei exclaimed, "Shit? You?" The bearded man said arrogantly, "What? Don't try to stall for time. Although I'm just a phantom clone, I won't be killed by your little tricks. As long as the person I'm waiting for doesn't come, I can still wait for 10,000 years. Han Fei was speechless. So, are you really Ren Tianfei? The phantom was taken aback. You know me? Are you my disciple? Chapter 506. For a moment, the air seemed particularly manic. Ren Tianfei was silent for a while. Are you the little bastard who made me wait for hundreds of years? Han Fei bared his teeth. Are you the old bastard who tried to kill me? Who are you calling an old bastard? Who are you calling a little bastard? Ren Tianfei's phantom gradually emitted a ray of brilliance. Shrouded by the brilliance, his phantom became more and more real. In just 10 seconds, Han Fei found that this guy had turned into a real person. Han Fei was stunned. Aren't you a phantom clone? How did you become a human? Clatter! Ren Tianfei clenched one hand into a fist and the other into a palm. He pressed his 2 hands against each other and made a clattering sound. Seeing Han Fei's astonishment, Ren Tianfei sneered. Do you think I only left a thought here? I left a drop of essence blood here and I can turn into a real person at any time. Han Fei felt that 10,000 iron-head fish were galloping in his heart. Is there such a thing? The essence blood turned into a human, so I came back to life? However, Han Fei immediately noticed something. Why are you only a dangling fisher? Huh? Ren Tianfei was also stunned. He looked at Han Fei for a long time and then gasped. Little bastard, you are only an advanced dangling fisher? Impossible. How can an advanced dangling fisher come here? Han Fei was speechless. You didn't make it clear. You just said that I'd better not come here when I'm a dangling fisher. I thought you were talking about a junior dangling fisher. Fortunately, I didn't come here until I was an advanced dangling fisher. So, you didn't expect me to come here when I was a dangling fisher? Ren Tianfei was also speechless. Did I take in a silly girl? Shouldn't a normal person come here when he is a hanging fisher? Han Fei said angrily, nonsense. Hanging fishers are not allowed to enter the level 3 fishery. Except for the guardians of the dragon boats, the level 3 fishery is full of great fishing masters or dangling fishers. How can I come here if I'm a hanging fisher? Ren Tianfei was stunned. Really? Weren't hanging fishers allowed to come here before? Han Fei pondered for a moment. Times are changing. That was 300 years ago. Anyway, I won't give it to you now. Ren Tianfei said suspiciously, bullshit. What was 300 years? This rule will not be broken even after 3,000 years. Suddenly, something occurred to Ren Tianfei. Then he suddenly looked Han Fei up and down. An advanced dangling fisher, TSK disc. It seems that I've picked up a good disciple. Han Fei sneered. Who the hell is your disciple? After messing with me so much, you still want to be my master? Ren Tianfei snorted. You're my disciple now that you've learned my indestructible body. However, you seem to have other fortuitous encounters. Otherwise, given your current strength, the meridians in your body would have exploded by now. It's impossible for it to still be intact. Han Fei's face immediately turned dark. I wouldn't have thought of that if you hadn't mentioned it. If it wasn't for the fact that I have so many treasures, I would have long since been crippled by your indestructible body. Han Fei said unkindly, I've worked hard to come here. Where are the treasures? Ren Tianfei chuckled. Treasure? If you call me master, I'll give it to you. Bah! Han Fei spat at the ground. In your dreams. Ren Tianfei rolled up his sleeves. Try spitting at me again. I'm going to slap you to death, you little bastard. Ren Tianfei's fist the size of a casserole came at Han Fei. Of course, Han Fei didn't refuse. He had already seen that Ren Tianfei didn't seem to be strong and had just become a hanging fisher at most. If your main body was here, I might even obediently call you master. You're just a hanging fisher clone, and you want me to call you master? You're not dreaming, are you? Han Fei roared and a golden fist light burst out of his body. Boom. The two fists collided, and the next second, Han Fei flew out and hit the rock wall, shaking the cave. Fuck, old bastard, are you using the power of a hanging fisher? However, Ren Tianfei did not respond to him but looked at Han Fei curiously again. What tremendous strength! Have you broken the second barrier of the indestructible body art? Han Fei thought for a moment. Should I use the majestic mystic spell? He used 80% of his strength in the punch just now, but he was hammered into the wall. He probably knew why there were several corpses embedded in the wall. It turned out that Ren Tianfei, the old bastard, was too strong. The punch just now definitely weighed 70 to 80,000 kilograms. Even so, Ren Tianfei looked quite relaxed as if he had just thrown a punch casually. Han Fei sneered. Old bastard, you're forcing me to fight you. Ren Tianfei chuckled. Interesting. If you hadn't broken the second barrier of the indestructible body, you wouldn't have been able to come here. Also, there's something wrong with the boxing technique you used just now. It's so fierce and domineering. It seems a bit like the art of invincibility. It's quite similar to my style. Style my ass. Watch my fist. This time, Han Fei attacked with all his strength, looking ferocious and powerful. With a roar, the golden fist light completely broke out, and each punch was like a dragon, and the huge golden fist shadow swept out. Ren Tianfei chuckled. "You're quite arrogant. Today, let me teach you what unparalleled boxing technique is." As soon as he said that, Ren Tianfei's expression suddenly changed. Facing Han Fei's golden fist light, he didn't dodge but resisted it with his body. At the same time, his fists also punched out dozens of fist light. Different from Han Fei's golden fist light, Ren Tianfei's fist light was extremely violent and murderous. Even the light was crimson, making him look like a villain. Boom, boom, boom. In the cave, fist shadows were everywhere and the murderous intent was overwhelming. On the rock wall, there were fist marks left by these two people everywhere. However, Han Fei was still much weaker, and the golden fist light couldn't resist Ren Tianfei's violent crimson fist light at all. Boom! Han Fei hit the wall again, and his whole body was embedded in it. Han Fei said angrily, "Old bastard, you're still using the power of a hanging fisher. You're cheating and bullying the weak. How shameless." Ren Tianfei sneered. "You're bullying me? How can you still say such naive words at this moment? In this world, who cares about fairness? The bigger the fist, the more the truth." Han Fei was a little speechless. It turned out that Ren Tianfei and Old Bai had the same idea. The bigger the fist, the more the truth. Han Fei curled his lips and said, "The bigger the fist, the more the truth, right? Come on, let's see whose fist is bigger." Majestic mystic spell. Han Fei's momentum soared, surging energy flowed, and his vitality covered the entire cave. Han Fei grinned hideously. "Let's see if you can defeat me with just a drop of blood, you old bastard." A big secret skill? Kid, you know quite a lot of things. As soon as the majestic mystic spell was activated, Han Fei's combat power was immediately raised to the peak. Even a creature as large as the abyssal water serpent had been beaten into submission by Yang Kai. "I'm invincible." The golden fist light shot out again, the air exploded, and the spiritual energy on Han Fei's fist was exploding. In the air, not only was a white circle blasted out by Han Fei's punch, but also a flame was blasted out by him. The red fist light was not weak at all. It punched back and forth with Han Fei more than a dozen times, sending rocks flying in the cave. One of the corpses was directly crushed by the fist wind because it happened to be in the path of the two fists. Bam! This time, Han Fei finally blasted Ren Tianfei back. Although this old bastard only took a half step back, he still stepped back. But as soon as he took a half step back, Ren Tianfei's leg swept over. Han Fei raised his fist to block, but the next second, an elbow hit his chest, followed by a back kick. Han Fei felt as if he had been hit by a hill. Before he flew out, Ren Tianfei clasped his arm and pulled him back. Then, although Han Fei had great strength and a solid physique, Ren Tianfei, the old bastard, used all kinds of fancy combat skills, such as elbow, finger, knee head. Han Fei felt that this old bastard seemed to be using every muscle in his body to the fullest. Ren Tianfei sneered while fighting. "What's the use of having invincible faith? I haven't fought enough." Take someone like you for example. I can crush you to the ground with one hand. Puff! Han Fei was sent flying by a finger. Han Fei was speechless. Under this series of moves, he didn't even have the power to resist. Of course, Han Fei wouldn't admit defeat. With a roar, he activated the 108 spirit-absorbing war bodies. All kinds of weird postures that defied common sense were displayed. His reaction speed and combat skills burst out in an instant. "This combat skill is not bad, but you are too slow." "So slow? Faster, faster? Why are you so slow?" Boom. Han Fei only held on for half a minute before he was blasted into the rock wall again. Spurting out a mouthful of blood, Han Fei felt sore all over and cursed at Ren Tianfei, "I'll surpass you sooner or later." Han Fei's body shook and he jumped out of the cliff. When he was about to fight again, Ren Tianfei's body suddenly collapsed. He was in human form just now, but now he had become a phantom again. Ren Tianfei snorted. Forget it. Your physique is not bad. Although your boxing skills are a bit poor, they're not bad. You barely passed the test. Han Fei. Chapter 507. Han Fei could tell that the power of Ren Tianfen's drop of blood was almost used up. After all, according to the intensity of the battle just now, most people might not be able to take 2 punches from Ren Tianfen. In this way, after a battle, Han Fei took out a large piece of sea cucumber and ate it heartily. Ren Tianfen was speechless. "Why are you still eating?" Han Fei snorted. "Only when I'm full will I have the strength to fight." Ren Tianfen grunted and pointed at the word, test, and then the word began to break. Then, the rock wall began to shatter, gradually revealing a big hole behind the rock wall. Han Fei asked curiously, "What treasures did you leave for me? You should at least give me a few divine weapons, right?" "Divine weapons?" Ren Tianfen glanced at Han Fei contemptuously. "What you're going to do is to strengthen your body. No matter spiritual weapons or divine weapons, they will be no match for your body." Han Fei's eyes narrowed. "Really? I can't even resist the sword currents outside the cave. Do you mean that when I practice the indestructible body, my body can resist divine weapons?" Ren Tianfen looked at Han Fei with a faint smile. "Relatively speaking, not to mention divine weapons, I can even fight sea-quelling bizarre treasures with my bare hands." Hiss! Han Fei immediately took a breath. He didn't even know what a sea-quelling bizarre treasure was. He just guessed that the embroidery needle might be a weapon of that level. Suddenly, Han Fei took out the embroidery needle and inserted it into the ground. "Is this a sea-quelling bizarre treasure?" Ren Tianfen's eyes widened. He stepped forward and looked at the rusty stick. After thinking for a long time, he asked in confusion, "Where did you get it?" Han Fei said, "Have you heard of the rock-holding turtle? I plucked it from its back." Ren Tianfen grinned. "Have you ever met a rock-holding turtle?" Ren Tianfen tapped the embroidery needle with his finger and thought for a moment. "It should be a sea-quelling bizarre treasure. However, you can barely use it now, right? You can only use this stick as an ordinary stick, right? Don't show it to others in the future. Is it really a sea-quelling bizarre treasure? How can I make it recognize me as its master?" Han Fei's eyes lit up. "I can't even use 10% of the embroidery needle's power? How strong would he be if he used his full strength after he recognized him as his master?" Ren Tianfei scoffed. "You can't make a sea-quelling bizarre treasure acknowledge you as its master unless you can win its approval. If there comes a day when you can use it to unleash an earth-shattering attack, you might have a chance. However, with your current strength, I'm afraid you won't have a chance for now." Han Fei didn't care. "This rod is mine anyway. It will recognize me as its master sooner or later." Suddenly, Ren Tianfei's body flickered, and the old man suddenly said solemnly, "I'll talk and you listen. Don't interrupt." Ren Tianfen said, "Try to find a heaven-level, high-quality body tempering technique. You'd better get it done before you enter the 1,000-star city. Moreover, you have to practice well." "But I told you not to interrupt." Ren Tianfei continued, "If you keep practicing the indestructible body, the more you practice it, the harder it will be for you to hide your powerful physique and blood power, which will be extremely easy to be exposed. With your current strength, you will definitely go to the unknown place in the future. There are no fisheries there. Once you go to sea, it will really be a boundless ocean with no boundaries or limits. There are countless people from the 1,000-star city there. If you practice the indestructible body too well, you will be easily recognized, which is not good for you." Regardless of whether he interrupted or not, Han Fei hurriedly asked, "Old bastard, how many people have you offended? What will happen if others know that I practice the indestructible body?" Ren Tianfei said solemnly, "Consequences? The consequence is that you will be hunted down endlessly. Some people covet the indestructible body, and some fear it. Of course, it's not a big deal. The important thing is that the indestructible body involves a big secret, which you are not qualified to know yet. However, as long as you don't die, you will know it sooner or later. Remember, you must not expose it. Once exposed, escape immediately. Wander in the infinite ocean and come back when you are really strong. As Ren Tianfei spoke, the phantom was fading, and this time it was flickering. Han Fei hurriedly asked, Hey, did you leave me any other treasures? What's in the depths of this abyssal chasm? Can I explore it? Ren Tianfei rolled his eyes at Han Fei. Don't ask. When you came here, you should have encountered a secret realm too. Don't go in, or you will die. Han Fei was shocked. So dangerous? Ren Tianfei's phantom had become very faint, and he finally said, When you can break the barrier of the third level of the indestructible body, you will be qualified to roam the unknown place. But don't come to the abyssal chasm again. Ren Tianfei's phantom disappeared, turned into a wisp of white smoke, and disappeared without a trace in the blink of an eye. Han Fei was speechless. You haven't told me whether there are other treasures. While Han Fei was talking, he was a little scared in his heart. According to what Ren Tianfei just said, when he could roam the unknown place, couldn't he explore the other two secret realms in the abyssal chasm? Han Fei took out the cauldron and stuffed it into his mouth, before he slowly recovered. I can't even beat a drop of blood? Han Fei couldn't help but shake his head. The strong masters in this world were still too terrifying. A drop of blood that had been released for 300 years was still so tough. Then, how strong was Ren Tianfei himself? What Han Fei didn't know was that millions of kilometers away, an angry old man suddenly opened his eyes. The first clone has disappeared? I'm going to have a disciple? Little bastard, I hope you can pass the next test. Han Fei put away the cauldron and walked to the cave behind him. As he walked, Han Fei rubbed his hands. The treasure land was built here. Ren Tianfei must have left some good things for me. I'm looking forward to it. Just when Han Fei was looking forward to what treasures there would be, when he stepped into the cave, he suddenly stepped into a huge underwater hole. Han Fei? What happened to the treasures? What happened to the divine weapons? Ren Tianfei, damn you, you old bastard. Haven't I tested it? Why is there a follow-up test? This water cave was 4 or 5 times larger than the previous cave with a radius of 100 meters. When Han Fei saw that there was not even a stone here, he knew he was in trouble. When he saw the engraved array under his feet, he knew he was in trouble. Sure enough, the array under his feet glowed, and the whole water cave began to shake. Then Han Fei felt that the water suddenly became very, very heavy. If the normal water pressure here was 1, then the water pressure at this time suddenly became 10. Shit! Han Fei could withstand 10 times the gravity. Of course, he could withstand it for a while. However, when he was put in this environment, it was a different story. Under 10 times the gravity, Han Fei's first reaction was to tense up his body, and his advantage in speed was immediately destroyed. Suddenly, Han Fei saw that in the center of the water cave, another Ren Tianfei emerged. Han Fei immediately said angrily, Fuck, why did you come out again? However, this Ren Tianfei was completely serious and his personality seemed to be completely different from the last one. This Ren Tianfei looked at Han Fei coldly. You're finally here. Now that you've passed the basic test, let's start the formal training directly. Training? What the hell? Han Fei hurriedly asked, Are you also transformed from a drop of essence blood? This Ren Tianfei's face was cold. I don't know what the last clone was like, but my task is to train you. So, I'll abandon all emotions and won't be polite to you at all. Don't pretend to be very heavy. Even an ordinary person can withstand 10 times the gravity in a short time, or even more. Since you've practiced the indestructible body art, it should be very easy for you. Han Fei was speechless. Easy? Why do you think I'm easy? This Ren Tianfei said coldly, A cultivator's physique will become stronger under multiple times the gravity. His learning ability and reaction ability will become stronger. The disadvantage is that the blood flow in the body will be suppressed. When the pressure increases, the speed will become very slow. However, these disadvantages are for ordinary people. You've practiced the indestructible body art, and your blood is like a tide. You only need to adapt to it a little to offset the disadvantages of blocked blood flow. In the end, the only thing left is the problem of speed. Han Fei gritted his teeth. So, the so-called treasure is for me to come here to cultivate? How long will it take? Ren Tianfei said, this array is called the 7 Stars Array. You will keep cultivating until you defeat me. Fuck, Han Fei was dumbfounded. What if I can't win? Then you'll keep cultivating here. Han Fei. Chapter 508. Han Fei was still trying to adapt to the 10 times gravity underwater, when Ren Tianfei said coldly, you have half an hour to adapt. Han Fei asked, what about half an hour later? Ren Tianfei said lightly, start training. Han Fei was speechless. Is this so-called treasure really training? Did you really prepare a treasure for me? Ren Tianfei glanced at Han Fei lightly. You talk too much nonsense. I don't mind starting training now. Han Fei shut up. This Ren Tianfei was completely different from the one just now. From this person, Han Fei felt nothing but indifference. Han Fei immediately began to move his body. If there was any way for Han Fei to quickly adapt to this kind of gravity environment, it must be the 108 spirit-absorbing war bodies. Han Fei hadn't deliberately practiced the 108 spirit-absorbing war bodies for a long time. When Han Fei made the first posture, Ren Tianfei was slightly surprised. Because he only had half an hour, Han Fei's movements were very fast. In the time it took for half an incense stick to burn, he had made 36 postures. Ren Tianfei suddenly said, your combat skill is very good. It can maximize the use of every muscle. Although this combat skill doesn't seem to be of a high level, it is very rare. You can practice it for an hour a day in the future. Han Fei grinned. Is there a combat skill that you like? Ren Tianfei said bluntly, combat skills have a great advantage in the early stage. Especially for people with low strength like you, a good combat skill can improve your combat ability and reduce the chance of your death. Han Fei asked, then what if my strength is not low? Ren Tianfei continued, at that time, you will be absolutely crushed. No matter how brilliant your combat skill is, it is useless in the face of absolute strength. Han Fei snorted and didn't speak. When he finished practicing the 108 postures, Ren Tianfei came to 10 meters away from him. Now, the training begins. Han Fei asked, huh? You're going to start now? However, instead of responding to Han Fei, Ren Tianfei directly punched at him. No weapons, only fists and combat skills. Seeing that Ren Tianfei threw a punch at him, Han Fei certainly had to fight back. However, as soon as he clenched his fists, he immediately felt that his speed couldn't keep up. Immediately, Han Fei tilted his head slightly and moved sideways. Unfortunately, his opponent was not an ordinary person, but a guy with an abnormally strong physique like Ren Tianfei. Bang! An elbow hit Han Fei's chest. Han Fei was sent flying and fell 7 or 8 meters away. Han Fei hurried to support himself with one hand and kicked at Ren Tianfei, who was coming at him again in a weird posture. But the latter grabbed his leg with one hand, pulled it, and slapped his chest. Bang! Han Fei flew out again. Before Han Fei's body landed, Ren Tianfei rushed at him again. Bang, bang, bang. He didn't know how many times he had been beaten, but his whole body was sore. Ren Tianfei kept saying, slow, too slow. Didn't you eat? Why is he so weak? Is your qi and blood not flowing smoothly? You can't even react? Are you a turtle? Even a turtle is faster than you. Get up. Han Fei didn't know how long he had been abused. Anyway, he felt that his whole body had been hammered by Ren Tianfei. But up to now, he hadn't even hit him once. When a day passed, Ren Tianfei gave Han Fei an hour to practice the 108 spirit-absorbing war bodies. 1 hour later, the battle continued. He didn't know how long it had been going on, but it should be about 10 days. Han Fei was not a person who would give up. This reminded him of when Jiang Qin trained him on the seabed. At that time, he was no different from now. He was abused by Jiang Qin for half a year. Half a month later, Han Fei had almost completely adapted to the situation of 10 times the gravity. He found that qi and blood could also be mobilized. Before, Han Fei had never thought about the problem of qi and blood. He only felt that his physique was very strong, his heartbeat was very strong, and his qi and blood were sufficient. But at this time, he found that when he wanted to attack, his qi and blood could actually be supplied in advance. At that moment, his speed would soar. Because of this, Han Fei could barely keep up with Ren Tianfei's rhythm. At this moment, after practicing the 108 spirit-absorbing war bodies, Han Fei immediately rushed towards Ren Tianfei. He swept his leg, and under 10 times the gravity, a shadow was left behind. However, Ren Tianfei was faster. He leaned back slightly, turned to Han Fei's side, and hit Han Fei's stomach with his knee. Bam! Han Fei cursed, "Have you improved your strength to that of an advanced dangling fisher?" Ren Tianfei said indifferently, "Yes, so that you can improve quickly." Han Fei felt that there were 10,000 ironhead fish galloping in his heart. This is too much. I finally adapted to the state and reached the reaction speed of an intermediate dangling fisher in the normal water, but this guy immediately improved his strength to that of an advanced dangling fisher. Han Fei said angrily, "Do you think I believe you? You just want to hit me." However, Ren Tianfei's answer was also very straightforward. "Yes, I just want to hit you." Han Fei. Another half a month later, Han Fei had completely ignored the 10 times gravity, and his qi and blood were as pure as fire. At this moment, not to mention hitting people with his fists, every muscle on Han Fei's body could burst out with tremendous power in an instant. At this moment, Ren Tianfei had become a peak-level dangling fisher, and Han Fei could only be beaten. Another 10 days passed. When Han Fei managed to adapt to Ren Tianfei's strength, this bastard actually suppressed him with a mental shock. In the second month after entering the water cave, Ren Tianfei threw a piece of poison at Han Fei. Han Fei was stunned and cursed, "You are such a strong master. Why do you still use poison?" However, Ren Tianfei was also stunned. "What anti-poison fruit have you eaten? The poison here has no effect on you at all." Han Fei sneered. "Of course. I've eaten venomous tulip, and the poison in the level 3 fishery is basically ineffective on me." Ren Tianfei roared, "Then I'll continue to beat you." Ren Tianfei raised his strength again, which was already the power of a hanging fisher. But Han Fei sneered, "Hey, you can improve your strength, but I also have a secret method. I've been beating you for 2 months. Today, I'll let you taste the feeling of being beaten." Majestic Mystic Spell. Han Fei hadn't used it before because he knew he was training. After being beaten for 2 months in a row, Han Fei felt that the 10x gravity was nothing to him, and he didn't need Ren Tianfei to train with him anymore. "I'm invincible." In the blink of an eye, the golden fist mark punched out hundreds of times. The seawater was blasted apart and was boiling. Ren Tianfei was slightly taken aback. "Are you in a hurry to go out?" Han Fei scolded, "I don't want to be beaten by you." Ren Tianfei said lightly, "Well, then you can go out." After saying this, Ren Tianfei turned from a real person to a phantom, and then the phantom disappeared. Han Fei was stunned. "That's it? Isn't it too fucking casual?" While Han Fei was still stunned, the water cave collapsed, seawater flowed out, and the 7-star array on the ground began to shatter. Han Fei found a door on the ground. Looking at the mottled, manhole-like door, Han Fei frowned. Will there be a third Ren Tianfei later? When the gravity completely disappeared, Han Fei suddenly felt extremely light. He felt that he was floating, and as long as he tiptoed, he could jump hundreds of meters away. Han Fei knew that he couldn't waste any more time. It had been more than 2 months since he entered the abyssal chasm, and there were only 5 months left before the 1-year deadline. He wondered if Zhang Xuanyu and Xia Shaochan had met up. Han Fei pulled up the mottled door with one hand with a gloomy face. In the end, this casual grab actually tore the millstone-like stone door into pieces. But I've become much stronger. However, this time, Han Fei's eyes lit up, because he saw the chair and the stone platform, as if someone had lived here. Han Fei jumped into the door without hesitation and looked around. It turned out to be a large room with an area of less than 100 square meters. Among them, the most conspicuous thing in the room was a large pool, which was 3 meters in radius. In the pool, there was bright red pool water. When Han Fei saw the pool of water, he was shocked. The energy was too violent. He just stood here and breathed for a while, but he felt that there was surging energy into his body. Fuck, candle dragon blood? So much? Chapter 509. Han Fei's attention was immediately attracted by the candle dragon blood. It was like placing a luminous pearl in the dark night, so dazzling. Gulp. Han Fei's eyelids twitched. This is crazy. Has Ren Tianfei killed a dragon before? This is too exaggerated. There is a pool of candle dragon blood. Previously, in the gate of the hexagon starfish, a drop of candle dragon blood turned him into a round fatty. Here, there is a fucking pool. If he absorbed all of it, Han Fei felt that he would definitely explode. There was no other possibility. Who? Han Fei took a deep breath, full of confusion. The energy of the entire abyssal chasm had been absorbed. Why was the candle dragon blood here safe and sound? The only explanation that Han Fei could think of was that Ren Tianfei was too strong and the seal he set was too strong. Even the mysterious suction force of the abyssal chasm couldn't absorb any energy from here. Han Fei moved his eyes away with difficulty and looked around the room. At first glance, he could tell that this room was forcibly smashed from the outside. There were huge fist marks on the rock wall, which was very in line with Ren Tianfei's style. In the corner of the room, there was a large bed on a stone platform, covered with some crushed dry seaweed. Beside the bed was a stone table against the wall, and there were some fish skins on the stone table. Except for these two things, Han Fei didn't see anything else. On the rock wall opposite the bed, there was a 5-meter big fist mark sunken in the rock wall. Han Fei sneered. Are you crazy? You punched out such a big fist mark in your living place? Is it a decoration? Han Fei didn't care about the fist mark. His first goal was naturally not the fish skin or the fist mark, but to find the treasures Ren Tianfei left for him. But there was nothing else here. The only thing that was on the stone table was the same as a feather in the mantis shrimp's cave. This was the same as the mantis shrimp cave. Could it be that this guy had left a set of cultivation methods for him? Han Fei hurriedly walked forward and found that there were only 3 fish skins on the table. One fish skin was painted with a picture, which seemed to be a floating island. The other fish skin was written with notes, which seemed to be left for him. There was also a fish skin with a big fist drawn on it. Han Fei's face turned green. He felt that he was about to burst into flames. I've worked so hard to come to this place, and this is what you show me? Han Fei tried to suppress his anger and picked up the fish skin with words on it. To think that you haven't fallen yet? Han Fei was lost for words when he read the first sentence. You want me to die, don't you? Skipping the first sentence, he continued to read. Since you can enter the abyssal chasm and come here, it means that you should have become a hanging fisher. Otherwise, you won't be able to pass the first 2 tests. However, since you're here, it means that you're quite talented. Now, let me tell you a few things. First of all, I didn't leave you with any random divine weapons, nor do I have any so-called battle techniques. Since you've already come this far, the second barrier must have been broken. As for the indestructible body, my first clone should have already told you about it, so I won't say anything more. Why did I let my first clone tell you? That's because if you didn't meet my standards, you wouldn't have had the chance to meet my second clone. Now that I've met you, it means that you're already my disciple. Fuck off. You've beaten me for 2 months. Is this how you teach your disciple? Don't let me catch a chance. I'll beat you up. Then, Ren Tianfei finally got down to business. He said, when you find that you'll need a lot of energy to break the second barrier of the indestructible body. The stronger the indestructible body is, the more energy it needs. The 30 drops of candle dragon blood in the pool are reserved for you. After you absorb it for the first time, you'll become very fat. I think you should know that. At that time, you were too weak to absorb a lot. But with your current physique, you can completely absorb a drop of candle dragon blood. Remember, use the candle dragon blood when necessary. It's best to save about 10 drops to break the third barrier of the indestructible body. Han Fei was taken aback. Are you kidding me? There are only 30 drops of candle dragon blood in such a big pool? Doesn't that drop of blood weigh dozens of kilograms? Han Fei was speechless. He thought that a drop of candle dragon blood was the size of a small water droplet. How could he use it? He couldn't just say, "Wait a minute, let me drink a mouthful of blood." Han Fei shuddered when he imagined that scene. It would be too embarrassing. Ren Tianfei continued, "You don't need to break the third barrier of the indestructible body quickly. You just need to practice as usual. Cultivate your flesh and blood, cultivate your bones. One day, when you find that your bones are white and glowing and all the impurities are gone, it means that you've reached the third barrier." Han Fei bore that in mind. The second barrier of the indestructible body was already strong enough. Then, how strong would the third barrier be? Then, Ren Tianfei said solemnly, "Although I didn't leave you any divine weapons, I left you a punch. I guarantee that you'll be invincible in the unknown place." Han Fei's eyes immediately lit up. "That's too arrogant. I don't even dare to say that I'll be invincible in the unknown place with the art of invincibility. You just left me a big fist mark and a map, and you think you'll be invincible in the unknown place?" Ren Tianfei didn't continue but said, "When you break the third barrier of the indestructible body, you and I will meet again. By the way, good luck." He didn't say much. He had said everything he needed to say. The so-called treasures of this old bastard were the 30 drops of candle dragon blood and a big fist mark. But Han Fei was a little puzzled. What did the floating island on the other fishskin map mean? Han Fei didn't immediately study the big fist mark but picked up the map with the floating island. On the map, a floating island stood in the sky. Below the floating island was an ocean, and above the floating island was a layer of clouds. Wait! Suddenly, Han Fei's heart did a flip. He saw a pair of inconspicuous eyes that seemed to be like clouds in the clouds. When Han Fei's eyes met the eyes in the clouds, he suddenly had goosebumps all over his body, and a sense of horror involuntarily arose in his heart. There are secrets above the clouds. Han Fei gasped and didn't look at the eyes again. He just glanced at them and he felt cold all over. His whole body was frozen and he almost couldn't move. This old bastard. He left a map but didn't explain things clearly. What did he mean by leaving this picture behind? And what is the eye above the clouds? Han Fei came back to himself. The feeling just now was more like a warning. But what did Ren Tianfei want to warn him about? Han Fei couldn't figure it out, so he could only put the map away for now. He thought that the city must be the Thousand-Star City. He was still far away from the Thousand-Star City. In the words of Old Bai, he had to stay in the unknown place for a few more years. After staying in the level 3 fishery for a year, Han Fei already felt that there were too many things to explore by himself. The unknown place was much more dangerous than the level 3 fishery, so there were naturally more things to explore. To the Thousand-Star City? I'd better go back. At this point, Han Fei began to look at the big fist left by Ren Tianfei. Han Fei held the fish skin map and looked at the fist mark on the rock wall. He made a comparison, but he didn't seem to feel any difference. Staring at the fish skin map for a long time, Han Fei felt that it looked like a combat skill, but not like a combat skill. The demon purification pot didn't record it. Putting away the fish skin map, Han Fei ran to the rock wall and tried to punch the fist mark left by Ren Tianfei with his fist. However, the result was terrible. Han Fei felt that all the energy in his body was almost drained in the blink of an eye. The blood in his body, from head to toe, poured into the fist in a strange way. Boom! A fist shadow more than 5 meters in size burst out from Han Fei's fist and slammed into the fist mark on the rock wall. Han Fei immediately vomited a mouthful of blood and then exclaimed, "Secret method." But at this moment, Han Fei couldn't care less. He sat on the ground, took out the big pot, and began to stuff himself with food. Now Han Fei had learned to be smart. He always cooked a pot of yellow-blooded sea cucumber and put it in Forge the Universe. When he needed it, he would take it out and eat it. Anyway, it wouldn't go bad. After half an hour, Han Fei recovered and stared at his fist blankly. Just now, the energy in Han Fei's body was drained. Besides, it was not transmitted to the fist through the meridians, but from the flesh and bones, and then appeared on the fist. Han Fei's first feeling was that it was fast and then powerful. However, the power of this strike had practically exhausted all of his energy. If he fought, suddenly when Han Fei saw the candle dragon blood, he seemed to understand something. Chapter 5:10. Han Fei immediately realized that Ren Tianfei knew that this move was too domineering and would drain the energy in the user's body. Therefore, Ren Tianfei left 30 drops of candle dragon blood for Han Fei. At this time, Han Fei glanced at the demon purification pot, only to see the data in it. Sacrificing punch, heaven level, divine quality. Note: gather all the energy in the body in an invincible posture, supplemented by the deterrence of the soul, and make a self-sacrificing punch to reach the state of godlike. Shortcoming: after one punch, all the energy will be lost and must be replenished in time. Otherwise, serious wounds will be left. Deduction: cannot be deduced, can only be comprehended. Note: this fist technique is not invincible. The user must have the courage to sacrifice himself in order to become stronger. Hiss! Han Fei had a lot of mixed feelings. Although this sacrificing punch was not as good as his art of invincibility, it was shockingly powerful. Besides, it seemed to be extremely simple. All he needed to do was gather all the energy in the body in an instant and blast it out. However, there were actually two difficulties. First, how could he gather all the energy in the body in an instant? When he punched out, Han Fei felt that the energy was drawn away in an instant, and at the same time, the punch mark had already been blasted out. In terms of speed, it was even faster than the art of invincibility. Secondly, some people might be invincible, but it was hard to have the courage to make a self-sacrificing punch. Ordinary people would only have this kind of momentum when they were on the verge of death. This punch was infused with this aura, and it had the rhythm of risking one's life. That was why it was called the sacrificing punch. Han Fei grinned. This old bastard doesn't seem to be bad. Although there didn't seem to be any divine weapons, spiritual fruits, combat skills, or arts here, he probably didn't know that Han Fei didn't lack those things at all. On the contrary, pure energy like the candle dragon blood was what Han Fei urgently needed now. He couldn't even imagine how terrifying it would be when he became a peak-level dangling fisher and used the majestic mystic spell with the power of that punch just now. After obtaining the sacrificing punch, Han Fei now had several killing moves. The more common one was the drawing technique. This move was strong enough, and Han Fei used it the most. The more extreme one was the sacrificing punch. When he used it, it would definitely be far more powerful than the drawing technique. After all, the drawing technique was not a sure kill attack. Counting the sky dissecting finger, the supreme yin-yang wheel, the majestic mystic spell, and the art of invincibility, Han Fei felt that he had too many unparalleled secret arts in the level 3 fishery. Han Fei had heard that Chen Aochen and Chao Tian's fists were invincible. Chao Tian once fought with him on the steps into the sea, but Chao Tian did not use his full strength at that time. At that time, when his sword drawing technique was blocked, he knew that this person was very strong. At that time, Han Fei used both the draw technique and the majestic mystic spell. As for Chen Aochen, whom he had met earlier, he should be much weaker than Chao Tian. After all, he had been swept into the sea by his million knife art. Although his current million knife art was composed of a superb spirit saber, if Chen Aochen was really strong enough, he should have a way to break it. Han Fei couldn't help but grin. Invincible fists? Should it become invincible 3 punches now? No. The moment this idea formed in Han Fei's mind, he immediately threw it away. Why 3 punches of invincibility? How could he be invincible with 3 punches? It should be super 1 punch. So this is the mentality of the strong? With that, Han Fei put away the cauldron, got up, and went straight to the candle dragon blood pool. With a thought in his mind, the small pool in Forge the Universe that originally stored the spiritual spring shrank a little. Han Fei stretched out a finger and pointed at the candle dragon blood, and all the candle dragon blood in the pool disappeared. The moment the candle dragon blood disappeared, a huge scorching energy instantly hit him. In the blink of an eye, the entire cave was filled. Shoot, Han Fei was stunned. What's going on? I just collected the candle dragon blood. Why did it suddenly burst out with such violent energy? As far as Han Fei's eyes could see, he was immediately filled with billowing flames. That's right, the moment the violent energy rushed out, it turned into raging flames. Its high temperature reminded Han Fei of the magma in the fiery mountain. Surprised? Do you think this is the end? It wasn't easy for me to find a disciple. How can I only leave a fist mark for you? Since you have broken the second barrier of the indestructible body art, I'll help you hone your bones. Old bastard. Han Fei was speechless. Surprise my ass. He was completely shocked. What the fuck is this? Suddenly, cracks appeared under Han Fei's feet. Circles of weird patterns spread out with Han Fei as the center. Han Fei shouted, "Old bastard, what is this?" However, as soon as Han Fei opened his mouth, flames rushed directly into his mouth and then came out of his nostrils. Old bastard, you're too much. You should have given me some fucking time to prepare. However, Ren Tianfei was nowhere to be seen. There was no sound at all, as if it wasn't Ren Tianfei who spoke just now. Asshole. Han Fei was speechless. This guy seemed to have just left a mechanical voice here, and there was no third clone at all. The flames around him were getting more and more intense. Han Fei's clothes were instantly burned up at the moment the flames ignited just now. He wanted to put on an ultra-quality battle suit, but then he thought that since there was no one here anyway, he might as well put on the clothes and heat himself. If the clothes were burned, it wouldn't be worth it. After 5 minutes, the temperature of the flames stabilized, but Han Fei didn't feel good at all. It was so fucking hot. At this time, Han Fei's skin had begun to crack. It had only been 100 breaths. Oh! Han Fei remembered that when he pretended to be the black and white ghosts, he kept saying that he would cook people. Now, it had turned into roasting people. However, the target of the roasting was himself. Crack! Chilla! His flesh and blood were constantly cracking, and magma began to gush out from under his feet. Han Fei felt that his eyes were almost burned blind. While covering his eyes, Han Fei struggled to watch the magma pouring into this space. Fuck you, Ren Tianfei, you bastard. You can't pass without killing me, can you? Don't let me be stronger than you in the future. Otherwise, I'll stew you. Han Fei felt that his flesh and blood were being burned. He had to sit down immediately and begin to practice the indestructible body art. Repeatedly tempering the skin, flesh, bones, and blood was the cultivation method of the indestructible body art. When his body was about to collapse, what came next was a terrifying vitality. Han Fei didn't know where this vitality came from. Did it belong to him? He didn't have time to think about this and took out dozens of spiritual fruits. However, the moment the spiritual fruits were taken out, they had already been vaporized. The billowing spiritual energy and the flames melted together. Han Fei closed his eyes tightly. Different from Ren Tianfei, his indestructible body art relied entirely on vitality to recover himself repeatedly. At this time, Han Fei's meridians were intact and he was absorbing spiritual energy as usual. So, wouldn't it be stupid not to use spiritual energy? Half an hour later, Han Fei's flesh and blood were wriggling and his bones were shockingly hot. But this was not the point. Han Fei was shocked to find that his eyelids had been burned off. At this moment, Han Fei felt terrible. I can't make my eyeballs indestructible, can I? How horrible would it be if someone poked my eyeballs with an ultra-quality spiritual weapon? In an instant, Han Fei took out 2 high-quality spiritual stones and stuck them to his eyes. I don't care about anything else, but my eyes can't be damaged. So, a massive amount of spiritual energy shrouded Han Fei's eyes. An hour later, Han Fei felt that he couldn't hold on any longer. His bones were not like bones but seemed to be injected with magma. Besides, his meridians were breaking. Han Fei took out dozens of spiritual fruits, trying to repair his meridians. For a moment, Han Fei was in a stalemate with the flames. At this moment, Han Fei didn't dare to have any other thoughts. Ren Tianfei thought he didn't have meridians, but in fact he did. Therefore, the way he practiced the indestructible body art was different from his. Ren Tianfei could temper his body crazily, but Han Fei couldn't. He needed balance. So, every 2 hours, Han Fei would throw out dozens of spiritual fruits to stabilize and repair his meridians. The same was true for the spiritual stones on his eyes. Every once in a while, Han Fei would stick 2 high-quality spiritual stones on his eyes. One day later, Han Fei was as skinny as a dry man, and his bones were glowing. From time to time, he was still emitting spiritual energy. Han Fei's meridians were the same. They were glowing like crystal veins, dazzling. 2 days later, Han Fei's bones became extremely pure and smooth as if they had been smeared with oil. But Han Fei didn't pay attention to his bones. His eyes were very sore. Although they were protected by spiritual energy, the dazzling flames had been burning around him, making him completely blind. 3 days later, Han Fei's meridians were no longer like meridians, but like liquid bones. What was flowing in them was no longer spiritual energy, but a spring of spiritual energy. After the 3rd day, the flames were dimming. 7 days later, the flames finally disappeared from this space. After a long time, Han Fei suddenly opened his eyes. In an instant, 2 flaming rays spurted out like 2 lasers. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.